With great power comes great responsibility.
Compromise where you can. Where you can't, don't. Even if everyone is telling you that something wrong is something right. Even if the whole world is telling you to move. It is your duty to plant yourself like a tree. Look them in the eye and say no. You move.
Never step onto the battlefield of ideas unprepared. Before you enter the fray, you need a plan. And there's no better place to get one than right here on Tactics with host Caleb Colquitt. The Situation Room goes live now on News Radio 1440.
And welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us and for being patient. We're sorry about that. Everything is going seemingly smoother now. Hopefully the internet is going to cooperate. I had to actually switch my internet feeds to a different stream. But we are here, and we're going to go ahead, and since we're here, go ahead and look at the latest Electoral College votes. This is the results from the New York Times that you can see here. So if you're looking at this right now, you can see that right now Joseph Biden is in the lead with 85 to 61, but there is a lot left to report. And so there are 392 remaining. We will be keeping a close eye on that. And really, so far, the states that have been reported are just, they're not going to be surprise states. You've got there Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Oklahoma. They've all been called for Trump. You've got Illinois and Delaware and Rhode Island, New Jersey, Vermont for Biden. And here's another thing, too. South Carolina is still showing up as red, but North Carolina has 70% voting, and since they're in the Eastern time zone, we may get some interesting things. The only one that was kind of in contention, now I never said that it was, but a lot of people speculated that maybe Trump could pull out Virginia. I said very early on that was a very, very heavy lift, so it does not appear as though that is going to be the case. Of course, that is unfortunate for him, but everybody was kind of expecting him to lose Virginia. Unfortunately, with the demographics that have been changing here recently, Virginia is basically just a DC suburb. And at this point, there's not a whole lot you can do if you happen to be a conservative and you are in that particular, if you're trying to win in that particular area. So that's how the presidential race is going right now. As far as the local ones, you can see there we have our WSFA feed coming up, but Tommy Tuberville is actually behind right now, but I don't expect that trend to continue for very long. And you're seeing the same thing with Phyllis Harvey versus Barry Moore. Again, our polls just closed. They're just now reporting. These are very, very early. I don't see this happening. Mike Rogers is also behind. I don't expect that to be a close race. I'm not particularly a big fan of Mike Rogers, but the idea of him losing to a Democrat is incredibly unlikely. So that's where we stand right now. In an interesting turn of events, and I do think that this is pretty fascinating, just to give you an indication of how the Republican early voting is somewhat skewed, Joe Biden is just barely losing to Donald Trump in the state of Alabama. Now, of course, they've already called it for him. But that just gives you an indication of how this voting is unreliable this early on. We'll get a better sense of everything and the landscape and how this is actually playing out right now. Looking outside, I guess Barry Moore must be speaking right now because there is a large crowd that has gathered outside. So we will keep you to date on what's going on there. Oop. Sorry, it looks like my mic was giving me some trouble there. But those are the reporting right now. That's the reporting right now. We don't really have a whole lot of other updates for you because this is incredibly early. There's going to be a lot that we're going to have to look back on and see how it's actually doing. So it looks like, let's go ahead and go to our WSFA cam. You can see here, oh wait, sorry. I thought they were going to I thought they were going to check out a campaign, but it turns out they're just doing football. So we won't be switching to that. We'll leave that to our sister station over at Sports Radio 740. But we are here right now. If you do want to comment, we're taking audience comments. and I'm going to be here for quite a bit of time this evening. We're going to be here as late as they will let us stay, bringing you the latest updates and what is going on in the presidential race, the local races. Right now, let's go ahead, in fact, and look over some of the recent polling here. So, hold on. So it looks like right now there's very little in way of something to report just because of how early some of these results are. I mean, we're looking at it right now, and they're refreshing, but they're just now really getting getting a handle on this. Like I said, right here in the state of Alabama, Donald Trump is barely beating Joe Biden by. Oh no, wait, that's actually national. So this is weird. Donald Trump is actually winning the popular vote nationally, just barely by 1%. But that is kind of odd, especially considering that everybody expected that if he won, it would be mostly the result of the Electoral College. But the fact that we're this early on and Donald Trump actually has a very slightly, well, actually I said that and it just now refreshed, so Joe Biden's actually in the lead on the popular vote. But it's interesting. So this is the kind of election night stuff that I'm really kind of trying to keep an eye on right here. We are going to be using the New York Times reporting for our National Electoral College because they are the ones that called it first last time, so very reliable there. Yeah, it looks like if we're going to check out, you can see here the newest numbers because they just refreshed is Donald Trump at 72 and Joe Biden at 85. So that's, yeah. All right, so that's where we stand right now. Again, I don't really think that this is a big deal. I think it's Connecticut that they just called for Joe Biden, which is really no surprise. That's one that we understood. The early one that we're going to want to keep an eye on is Florida, because I want you to check this out. Florida is currently at 91% reporting. Once we get a good idea of Florida, and they're in the Eastern time zone, mainly because of Bush Gore in 2004, they were very, very cautious to make sure that they had early reporting, that they had accurate vote reporting. And so because of that, what we're looking at right now is Florida is at 91% reporting, and once that result comes in, that may be a pretty good indication of who's going to win the election. And the reason that I say that is because usually whoever Florida picks does wind up winning the presidency, but also it is a must-win for Trump. Now, Trump could win Florida and still lose the election, but just based on the numbers, the chances of him winning the election without Florida are basically zero. So it's a must-win for Trump, not necessarily a must-win for Biden, but it will give us a pretty good indication of how things are going. Pennsylvania is going to be a long one, and it is only at 13% reporting right now, which is not a good sign. As I said last night, personally, just based on the polling that I've seen, I think that Donald Trump absolutely has to pull out Pennsylvania. I do not think he can win without it. Now, he picks up some Rust Belt states, maybe that changes. But as of right now, my prediction, he's got to win Pennsylvania to make it work. So that's where we stand right now. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at our polling for some of the local elections. If we can go ahead and pull that up, yeah. Mike Rogers is currently got only 43% of the vote. Again, there's not a whole lot reporting right now. The Montgomery County school tax, it looks like that one is off to an early lead with 63% voting in favor. I believe, well, that's got to be national polling because there's not 19 million people in Alabama, so that's definitely national polling. Yeah, so again, this is the Electoral College. We'll go ahead and switch to that real quick. 85 to 72, that one remains unchanged. So we're going to be working with our news partners here at WSFA. We'll be doing live reporting along with them. I'll be keeping an eye on the numbers. And one thing that we're going to do tonight that is a little bit different than normal And I know I'm very unprofessional. I'm looking at my screen an awful lot tonight, but we are going to do something a little bit different in that we're going to try to answer as much audience chat as we can. So if you do want to say something, ask me a question, get me to react to something, you can spout off in the comments below, and I will do my dead level best to get to those as quickly as humanly possible. So, that being said, we're going to do something also a little bit unconventional in the sense that we're actually going to have audience comments here in just a little bit. So, we may be able to pull that off relatively quickly. There we go. So, yeah, we're here live. For those of you who are just joining, we are here live at Barry Moore's election party, which is kind of expected to be a victory party if the polls are anywhere close to accurate. Oh, yeah. Now, this is an interesting thing. WSFA is showing basically some of the long lines today. Here's the thing. A lot of people, and this is traditionally true, they're not saying this because they just want it to be the case. Usually a high turnout is not good for Republicans. Usually high turnout means a lot of Democrats that wouldn't normally vote came out and voted, and low information voters tend to favor Democrats. So because of that, usually if you have a high turnout, that is bad news for Republicans. But based on the level of campaign enthusiasm, that may not be true this time. We're just really not sure. We will see if that is the case, but I'm just basing this off of what I know. I do not see that being an issue. In fact, I think that high voter turnout may actually be a positive in this election, both nationally and in the state of Alabama. For example, Doug Jones basically won because of very low voter turnout. It was a special election. That was the only race on the ballot. Not a lot of people showed up, and because of that, Doug Jones, people were very energetic about him. People had very mixed feelings about Roy Moore. And so a high voter turnout certainly did favor the a low voter turnout did favor the Democrat in that one particular instance. And I think that you're going to see similar things going on tonight. So, we actually have an update. We have new numbers coming in for Joe Biden. And this actually is one that was at least somewhat contested. I never really considered it contested, but some people did. New Mexico has gone for Joe Biden, so we see that being reported. And then we're seeing some of the mountain states going for Trump as well. So you can see there North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Wyoming all being reported for Trump. We also add Oklahoma to the list of states that have gone for Trump. West Virginia, that's no surprise. Donald Trump, the only state that ever beats Alabama as far as Donald Trump's approval rating is West Virginia. And so he wins West Virginia very handedly. No surprise there. He wins Indiana. Really not a surprise there either. But that is something that is going to help him. New Mexico. Some people were considering New Mexico in play. I never really saw it that way. But New Mexico is now called for Joe Biden, and that's, really not something that surprises me. So, this is interesting. We've got Doug Jones on, so we're going to go ahead and play him, see what he's got to say here. Why is my volume not working? There we go.
He can work across the aisle with both Republicans and Democrats and says that is something that Alabamians want. Now, here at the election watch party where I am, I'm in Birmingham at the moment at Pepper Place. We're outside right now. It's pretty much media that's only here, and that's quite common, especially early on before the polls close. But we are expecting more people and some supporters to show up at around 7:30, and we will be expecting Senator Jones to give a speech later tonight. Back to you.
Lydia, thank you
All right, so on the whole Doug Jones thing, I could be wrong, but I'm not. I'd consider that Doug Jones basically gave up this election about 2 years ago. Like, he knew he was not going to get reelected, and because of that, he's basically voted the way he wanted to, as opposed to trying to continue with this game of pretending to be a moderate. I mean, once he made the vote against protection for abortion at 20 weeks, Doug Jones knew he was not going to win this re-election. That was the end for him. You could see it in the way that he made the decision to vote against Kavanaugh. He voted against Amy Coney Barrett. Like, he basically just decided, I'm not going to get reelected. I might as well do as much damage as I can while I'm here, which if I were in his position, I understand. So that's what's going on here, and he's even been tapped to be the Attorney General. He apparently is the front runner if Joe Biden happens to win. I think that's what Joe Biden has been doing all this time. What he has been trying to do is basically ingratiate himself to the DNC so that if the election was won, he might be looking at a cabinet position. If the election was lost, then he could at least get a job with the DNC or maybe as a lobbyist, something like that. But Doug Jones basically knew that his reelection bid was more or less over. I mean, the second that this took place. So I don't really see Doug Jones. I think even he's given up on this. The DNC gave up on this race about a month and a half ago. They pulled out all their funding, and they basically saw it as a lost cause, which strategically speaking was smart. It made more sense to spend money where they thought they could actually win the races. So I don't see really this being something that is. I don't think even Doug Jones thought that he was going to get reelected here. So that being said, let's go ahead and look, because it looks like I'm getting an update here. It's just, no, actually those are the same numbers. So we're just, kind of cruising. One of my friends, Anna, where can I watch election updates that won't make me want to throw something at my TV? Well, you can watch them right here, Anna. Don't worry about it. We've got you covered. So we're actually in the middle of doing that now. Hopefully this doesn't make you want to throw something at your TV. I hope that is the case. I've got a lot of friends flooding in asking me about some of this stuff. Let's see. Hunter Lee says, tell me, just to ease my conscience, do you still see your poll prediction happening? Yeah, I do. I stand by it. I know that a lot of people are kind of souring on Pennsylvania, and I know that some people were kind of worried because of some of the early polling numbers. But here's the thing. Democrats tend to win early polling numbers, and the fact that it is as tight as it is in Pennsylvania between Trump and Biden, I think that tends to mean, and I could be wrong, but I think that tends to mean that actually Trump has an advantage there going into it being that close with Biden in the state of Pennsylvania. And as I said, Pennsylvania is the key. Whoever wins that state will be president. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I don't think that I am. So just be on the lookout for that. All right, so Hunter Lee, thank you for mentioning that. All right, we've got, looks like, that was our last comment. All right, so we will be continuing to do this. We actually have to where if you happen to be here at Sweet Creek Farms, you can actually step up to the mic and talk to me, ask me a question, anything. So we have it to where you can do that as well. Let me see if I can go ahead and get this working. Yeah, there we go. You can actually hear the band playing in the background there. So we're going to be taking comments from the audience, comments from the people sitting around here in Sweet Creek Farms. So let's see. They're kind of all outside. They're just now trickling in. Apparently Barry was speaking out there just a minute ago, but the band's playing again, so I assume that that is all finished. But we're going to keep an eye on everything in here. Let's see, Electoral College. Polls are closing in New York, but only only in-person votes will be released on election night. Here's the thing. Mail-in ballots, I get that there's going to be a plethora of them, significantly more than we've seen in past years, but the thing that I'm praying for is that we have a definitive answer tonight, that we know for sure, for a fact, no question, who is going to be president. We have a good idea of what the Senate's going to look like. Even if we wind up losing, the fact that we could be in this weird sea of ambiguity, not exactly knowing who's going to be president, who's not, that's the worst case scenario. Even if Trump winds up pulling out of that and winning, the worst case scenario is that we don't know that on election night. Americans are used to it. It's actually quite a blessing in America that we don't have to wait for weeks on end like other countries do to know who our leaders are going to be. So hopefully that is a trend that holds. I hope that is the case. Looks like we've got some. Do we have some comments here? There we go. All right. All right. So, yeah, I was saying that prematurely. We've got several likes, but no new comments. Just the couple that I've read so far. So, hey, you want to be on the air? All right, we'll go ahead and bring you on. So, you just go over there, stand by the mic. Hey. Well, I mean, hang on. I did that wrong. There we go. All right. Yeah, so it's my dad, John from Millbrook. You may know him from his radio appearances. Hey, so what's on your mind tonight?
Well, watching the totals like everyone else. I'm not worried about Barry. Of course, we're here for that, but we're worried, more concerned about the president and how that's standing at this moment. So what's going on with that? What do you see as far as the projections are concerned?
Okay, so right now, the numbers do show Biden with a pretty commanding lead, but that was kind of to be expected for a couple of reasons. First of all, his base is in the Northeast.
Sure.
They're all Eastern time zone. And really the only states that have gone for him that were in contention were Virginia and New Mexico.
Virginia wasn't in contention.
Yeah, I know. I said
too many. There's millions of D.C. people.
I had a ton of friends that had it red on their election.
No.
It's like they're too. I'm like, you guys are smoking crack.
I haven't studied it, and I know better than that. I've been to Virginia.
Well, and that's the thing, too.
You go to Richmond.
There was a time where New Mexico was like a real swing state, and now, like, it's become kind of like
Why
Colorado.
is it? Why has it turned that way?
There's a couple of reasons. First of all, you have changing demographics. Of course, it's a border state.
Hispanic.
So you've got an influx of people coming from Mexico, both legal and illegal. And unfortunately, the illegal makes a bigger difference than it ought to when it comes to an election. And another one, too, is New Mexico was kind of a libertarian state. You may remember that Gary Johnson was the governor there before he ran for president.
I remember that, yeah.
It was very libertarian about a decade ago. And because of that, low taxes, very good for business. You had a lot of big corporations relocating out of California to Arizona and New Mexico. Yeah. And now we're seeing the same thing happen in Arizona where it's starting to turn blue. Martha McSally actually lost her election in the Senate. And so I think that Arizona goes for Trump tonight, but by a very narrow margin.
What do you think about Nevada? You and I talked about that earlier.
Yeah, I don't think that Nevada is going to wind up going for Trump.
But it's the perfect state for Trump. You were mentioning that earlier.
I know. It's like if you could turn Donald Trump into a state, it would be Nevada.
I don't even know why he doesn't live there, to be honest. He fits it much more than New York, if you sit and think about it.
He's the casino king. I don't know why he's not there, but, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's been to Las Vegas quite a few times.
Yeah, well...
I think he did a wrestling match there one time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I've seen clips of that.
How weird is it that we can talk about a president of the United States? Yeah, I think he did a wrestling match
I think
Las
that's
Vegas.
pretty cool, to be honest.
I'm still mad at Joe Hunk for not letting me be Donald Trump in the wrestling tournament that we did. The video
well, I know this. As always, we're going to win the landmass regardless.
Oh, yeah, we always do that.
Always do that, and if you look at a map, you'll see little pockets of blue areas, New York City, L.A.,
right?
Detroit, Miami, maybe. I mean, I don't know the larger cities of Austin.
Even your deep blue New Yorks, though. You look at an electoral map in New York, all the counties surrounding New York are blue, and every other one is red.
Yeah, they'll be red too. So
I mean, yeah, you lose Albany and Buffalo, but other than that, the whole state's red.
Well, someone was talking about that earlier, and I said, well, people in rural areas are smarter and better educated.
That's what it is.
Okay, I know that's not politically correct, but I don't care.
Well, here's the thing about that. I don't know if they're smarter or better educated, but I think the reason for that is, and I've said this many times, when you are in a city, liberty is naturally less important to you.
Yes.
Because you're constantly stacked on top of one another.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. We'll take one policy here just as an example. For a gun policy, if somebody comes up to a rural person that lives out in the middle of nowhere and says, we can't let you have a gun, you might shoot somebody. He's like, but my nearest neighbor is a mile away. Who am I going to shoot? And so that's very different when you're living in a cramped apartment building where you could shoot a gun and it would go through 3 apartments.
True.
And so even though the argument for liberty on things like gun control would be the same, liberal arguments are more conducive to an urban environment. That's the way to say that. So
I know this, that goes back to, I've said this before, as far as the environment is concerned. If I lived in New York City, if I lived in LA, I would be worried about the environment too, because those places stink and people are on top of each other. They're more polluted.
Right. And
you go out in the country and it's not like that.
Well, and that was one of the things that I thought was really funny. Who was it that said something recently about this? Oh, I can't remember, but it was recently. I was doing a story. I think it was the Daily Dose of Stupid, if I'm not mistaken. And we had a liberal that was talking about how America is like the greatest polluter in human history. I'm like, well, first of all, we're not even close to India or China.
Yeah.
And even if we were, look at all the places that do pollute. It's not rural areas. You know, people always talk about factory farms poisoning the land and all this stuff. Now, urban environments produce way more pollution per square mile than...
We get into that. You can get statistics that will show you that the highest concentrations of water contamination, of air contamination, are in the urban areas.
Of course.
More so than you have in the agricultural areas.
Oh, that's absolutely true. So, but on all that, I don't know. I just think that when you're looking at the electoral map, I stand by my prediction. I don't know. Did you see my prediction from earlier?
I'm sorry?
Did you see my prediction from earlier?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I had the electoral map that originally it was Biden 278, and I had him winning Pennsylvania. But because of recent polling in Pennsylvania, it's been trending towards Trump.
Yes.
And on top of that, we had now, 5 straight days and nights of violent riots in Philadelphia?
Right.
And I think that's going to be the tipping point. I could be wrong, but since it was already trending towards Trump...
If he gets Pennsylvania, will he win?
I think if he gets Pennsylvania, he wins. I think whoever wins Pennsylvania...
What's Ohio going to do?
Ohio's going to go red.
It's going to what?
It's going to be red. It's going to go for Trump.
Okay.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm not. I think it's basically a done deal that Ohio goes red. If it goes blue, I would be stunned.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and maybe you've heard some things coming in today, that Trump was going to get significantly more Hispanic and African-American votes than they thought he was going to do at one time.
So here's the interesting thing about that.
Yeah.
The states that he is in danger of losing that he had last time are incredibly white.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting is if you're looking at the trend lines, you're looking at the demographics of the vote, Trump has actually picked up minority votes since 2016 and lost suburban white votes.
And
I
think that's part of the as a result of the campaign that has been to make people feel guilty for the oppression and things like that? And it's more of a
I don't
fad?
think it's that. I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I really don't think that that's it. I think it's exhaustion. I think that people in suburban areas like that, they're just tired of all the infighting. They're tired of constantly, the president tweeting something at 3
So
a.m.
somehow or another they think that's going to stop with this?
Oh, I don't think they're
Biden goes
right on
in?
that, but I do think that's what they think. I think they're like, well, if we just get rid of Trump, if we go with a politician that's been there for 100 years, everything will just zip back to normal. There's not an ounce of truth to it, but I think that really is what they believe. And Joe Biden has run his campaign off of that idea, which is smart.
And if he does, I'll make this prediction. We'll have a weaker economy. We'll be weaker in the world.
Sure.
Moral standards that this country had been founded on are really going to take a beating, even more so than they have in the last several years. Well, as a result of that, I think that the standing in the country is really going to digress a great deal.
On that, because I want to hit on 2 of those points. One of the things that I found really interesting, because a lot of people, of course, have been commenting on, and rightfully so, because it was such a shift on Donald Trump. Now, morality was probably not the only reason, but a primary reason that I did not vote for Trump in 2016. The reason that I did vote for him today is I said, the man gets a clean slate. When he walks into office, I am judging him from the inauguration day forward. And as far as morality goes, he has said some things that I thought were unkind and unnecessarily controversial, unnecessarily aggressive. So some things that we would say would certainly not be Christian things to say.
Yes.
But as far as like big moral faux pas, he hasn't had a single one. And
No.
frankly, I'm kind of shocked by that.
I am too, but
So far as we know, he's not like sleeping around on his wife or anything like that, which is unfortunately about normal. Oh,
I guess they just called one.
I believe that is the case. Did they just call Nebraska? Oh, Nebraska's gone for Trump. We actually already
Yeah, we knew that, but
yeah.
what was just called?
Yeah.
You keep talking and I'll ask.
That's fine. Yeah. But oh, okay.
Barry. And we are at his headquarters, and we were expecting that.
Yeah,
I
know people are surprised to find out that I'm not totally impartial, but we are doing this live from Barry's.
Yeah, we're doing it at Barry's.
I know.
Yeah, Barry's a fraternity brother of mine.
I didn't know he was an AGR.
Yes, of course he was.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
He's younger than I am. He was in there. I was in there before him, but
so
we're fraternity brothers.
He wasn't just an AGR. He was an AGR at Auburn.
At Auburn, yeah.
I was about to say I knew he went to Auburn.
Well, he was an ag major at Auburn, yeah. Why do you think
I
I'm supporting him? Actually, I'm supporting him because of Heather. I like Heather.
Really, everybody's here because of Heather.
Heather would smoke Barry. She would.
In an election, you think so?
Huh?
In an election, you think so?
Yeah.
I can see that, yeah.
If it came down to Barry and Heather, I think he knows what I would do.
All right.
Heather's like me. She's a little louder.
Now he said it earlier. Heather's actually the real politician.
You know, we always hear about Democrats especially being like, well, you're getting a set when you get us. You think about Michelle Obama and Barack, and then you think about, of course, Bill and Hillary. I don't know what it is, but like, it's not that Republican women don't do an awful lot as far as even including policy with their husbands. It's that it doesn't get as much airtime.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as prominent or featured. I think it's that more than anything, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I don't. It has been a fascinating thing to watch Melania in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
That is really been amazing to have someone from another country, and she's a citizen, of course. But
I love that. I love that. I'm not. Again, Donald Trump on the personal level, his personal life is not something that really appeals and draws to me. But I mean, how freaking cool is it that we have an immigrant as the first lady of our country? That's
and a
just awesome.
supermodel.
Well, yeah, that too. Of course, she's a very attractive lady. But I mean, to me, just the idea that if that's not a slice of Americana, I don't know what is.
She's a bright lady, the multiple languages, and some of the things that she's done has been outstanding. I mean, I've enjoyed watching her. I didn't know how I would take that, but I've enjoyed it.
I really didn't think that she was going to do a whole lot, not because, I thought that she was dumb or anything like that. It's just that, let's be honest, Trump sucks up all the oxygen in the room no matter who's in the room with him. And so because of that, I figured we wouldn't see a whole lot from Melania. Yeah. It's just kind of his personality. But I don't know that we've seen nearly as much of her as we have Michelle Obama. And frankly, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with the difference there, though, is Michelle was just such a media darling, and they loved to report on Michelle Obama. I don't know why, but they did. And so with Melania, it's very different because it seems like the only time the media does talk about her, it's in some kind of negative light.
Well, the thing about Michelle was that I never could understand the fascination in making your judgment that she was such a beautiful woman. I mean, give me a break.
She's an attractive lady, but she's not a knockout.
No.
She is a above average woman as far as appearance goes.
Yeah.
But you're right. Ben Shapiro, I don't know if you probably haven't read. I can't remember which book he does this in, but he has this thing that he does in one of his books. He says Michelle Obama, and then like in parentheses, the most beautiful woman in the world, trademarked. I thought that was hilarious. I laughed at that every time I read it.
Shapiro. Yeah, one of my favorite people.
Yeah, he's got quite a bit of wit. Oh, we've got another audience comment from Andrew. Let's see. Dang it, Andrew. Quit sending me screenshots.
I do know this.
Yeah.
Trump is doing well in Florida. He's 51.3 to 47.8. And that's got to happen for him. We know that.
See, now that's even more surprising because it's early. Because typically, Florida goes Democrat early and then takes a late swing towards Republicans when Republicans win it. So the fact that it's this early and he's doing all right, that's
let me ask you
probably
this.
pretty
Do you think
good sign.
Trump right now knows what's going to happen based on the people that he has out there?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, they know ahead of time. They'll act like they don't, but they do.
They don't know. And the reason that I say they don't know is because, keep in mind, all of Hillary's best pollsters were convinced she was going to win, so much that they spent $1 million on a fireworks show the night of.
Yes, true.
So, do they have better information than us?
Yeah, but they were spending other people's money. That was okay for them to do that.
Well, yeah.
That's what they do best.
Hillary's very good at that.
Yes, she is.
But anyway, but on that, the internal polling for each candidate is always better than the polling that is made public because there's more of it.
Yeah.
So it's not that the external polling is bad, it's that there's significantly less of it because those people don't have as much financial incentive to get it right.
Well, I've always had this idea that they're in a room somewhere and they see results coming in and they know the particular areas where they've got to perform and they don't do or don't, whichever way it goes, and they know
their
ahead of time.
Like I said, their information is significantly better than the information available to the public, but it's not flawless. It's not perfect because, like I said, Hillary Clinton was predicting an easy win on election night, and of course that didn't happen. Much to my delight, I have to.
Yeah, well, me too. Worst first lady we ever had.
But I mean,
and I've had Democrats I like. I mean, I'll say this about, we were talking earlier about Michelle.
Yeah.
She's likable.
Oh yeah, she's likable.
She's likable, lady. I would love to have a conversation with her. That would be okay. But
Jimmy Carter, I'd love to hang out with Jimmy Carter.
Hang out with Jimmy Carter in a heartbeat.
I'd catch a Braves game with Jimmy Carter.
Yeah. That would be cool.
Get us some peanuts.
I don't so much agree with the policies that he.
Well, no, I mean I don't think he was a good president, but I think he's a good man, and I wouldn't mind hanging out with him. But let's see here.
What we got going? I got to get back and mingle.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking some time to be with us.
It was fun.
Appreciate it.
You need to get some other people in on this thing.
Yeah, well, if anybody wants to make a comment.
If I can do it, anybody can.
All right, I appreciate it.
Well, I hope our results are great tonight.
All right, have a good one. All right, and we have another comment from Anna, who lives in the Montgomery area. She said, sorry, Facebook wouldn't let me watch your live stream. Oh, no. Well, I don't know what's going on there. It says everything's good on our end, so that's kind of surprising, but hopefully we can get that resolved. I hope that's the case. Let's see. That may be why we're getting so few comments on Facebook, is that they're doing something. You know, it could just be strain. It could be that they're targeting us. It could also be just a weird happenstance because of the election. It wouldn't be the first time Facebook had targeted us, but I'm hoping that that is not the case. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick. Well, that's not good. I don't know why every time I say that, my voice gets high and squeaky. Weird character trait there. All right, so I hope that we're still going. Yeah, our coverage is still running, so I'm not sure about that, Anna. I'm sorry, I don't know. Maybe it's on your end, maybe it's on our end. I'm just not sure. I hope that is not the case. I hope that we're still broadcasting. But anyway, let's go ahead and. Whoop. let's go ahead and look at some more election results because we did just have a couple states reporting. There we go. All right, so you can see here that Joe Biden is at 122, Donald Trump at 92. Let's see, what states reported just now? Well, Biden was at 119, so being at 122, somebody had to go for him. Delaware, maybe? Oh, it was Delaware. So that's really not a big surprise. Not that many electoral votes, and Delaware is his home state, so not real surprising that he wound up winning Delaware. I don't think that that's really an indication of anything. So, I mean, it's news, but does it give us an idea of what's actually going to be happening tonight? Probably not, just to be perfectly frank about it. So for those of you who are just joining us, we are live here at Barry Moore's election party. Hopefully everything is well with you, and we're going to go ahead and, since there's kind of a lull in the action right now, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to go ahead and, let's take a quick break here. There we go. So we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back in just a second on Tactics.
Hey everyone, I'm going to be honest with you, I have had a really crappy day. My Auburn Tigers lost to the Gamecocks of all things, and now we're 2-2. Then my Braves lost to the Dodgers of all people, even though they could have gone to the World Series today, and now they're going to be forced into a Game 7. And on top of all of that, I wound up getting a ticket for $190, completely canceling out the $150 I got for doing a wedding today. So it's just been a terrible day all the way around. But the thing is, as bad as this day has been, there is something that helps me out with it. InsomniaCookies.com. That's right, InsomniaCookies.com. You can go to any of their physical locations, which are in Birmingham or Tuscaloosa or Mobile or Auburn. You can go there and you can get something directly from them, or you can go to their website and get one of these fancy boxes at InsomniaCookies.com. And here's the thing. This is my little secret on this. My favorite dessert is not cookies. My favorite dessert is brownies. And it turns out that Insomnia Cookies, even though I only requested they send me a box of cookies, also sent me brownies. I didn't even know they made brownies. Somebody there must be a mind reader, because I asked for a box of cookies and it's like they knew that I would enjoy the brownies. And so, never had one of these before, never had an Insomnia Cookie brownie. This is the first test. And they do always recommend that you put all of their cookies when you get them out of the box. They recommend that you put them in the microwave. The brownie takes a little bit longer, so you might want to leave it in there for like 20-30 seconds. They recommend 10 for the cookies, but here it goes. First taste test of the Insomnia Cookie brownies. That is actually really good. This has chocolate chips in it, and so you get the consistency of a brownie. You get that really sort of crumbly, moist thing going on, but you also have the chocolate chip. And by the way, that is quite a compliment, because especially a boxed brownie like this, one that arrives in the mail, it's really hard to get that moist consistency, but you pop it in the microwave or in the oven for just a few seconds, and you really do get that moist, like straight out of the oven brownie taste. Oh yeah, it tastes like, it really does taste like I just made a batch of brownies and cut them. Well, actually better than that, because to be honest, I'm not much of a baker. I can cook, but I'm not much of a baker. Like a lot of bachelors, that's just not my forte. And so this is a fantastic brownie. And I didn't have to make it. And as somebody that's a single guy, you know, if I make a pan of brownies, they're probably going to spoil before I could eat them all, because it would make like 20-something brownies. This way, I get a brownie, I get a single serve, I can just buy 1, 2, 3 at a time, and they don't go bad, and I can eat them, and it's like enjoying a brownie fresh out of the oven. So, man, that is a really good brownie. Fantastic. So, check them out at InsomniaCookies.com. That is InsomniaCookies.com.
And welcome back, everybody, for those of you that are just now joining us. Uh-oh. Having an issue with my sound here. I don't know what's going on. That's not good. Mic check, mic check. 1, 2, 3, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Now, it's not you. I'd know if it was you. Well, that's weird. Okay, there we go. We're back on. I don't know what was going on there. It was just confusing. But yeah, we've actually got a guest that is here wanting to talk to us here at the we're live at Sweet Creek Farms with Barry Moore's election party. So this is actually a personal friend of mine. I go to church with him. How you doing, Chip?
I'm doing great, Caleb. Glad to see you out here tonight. You're looking good, brother.
Yeah. Hey, you've got a problem that I'm not sure how to rectify. You're too tall, so you're going to have to step back just a little bit. There you go.
Take the microphone with
There
you.
you go. Yeah, take the
Okay.
mic with you. That's
All
fine. Yeah, I was interviewing my dad a second ago. He's a lot shorter than you.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
if you were out here, I guess you'd have to back up here too a little bit.
Yeah, I probably would, to be perfectly frank about it. Yeah. So, so tell the folks what you do. I see you've got a big fancy National Rifle Association jacket on
Well,
there.
yes, I am a proud member of the NRA, and I do believe in the Second Amendment and what it says. And hopefully, these politicians understand 3 words that say shall not be infringed" mean something.
Right.
The bottom line is, I'm also a good citizen. We need to have fiscal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have people that follow the rule of law. We need to have legislators that are going to make laws that are good for all people, not just different segments. And I think when I did my investigation of Barry Moore, I found that out. I've been a supporter of Barry Moore for 2 years ago when he ran. I was hoping he could get through there because our current representative, who I'll leave unnamed, I didn't think was doing the best job that she could be doing.
We all know who you're talking about,
Yeah,
though.
well, I think people have figured out, but I don't
Well, I'll say it. It's Martha Roby. I
Okay,
know.
it is. Well, anyway, in fact, I was hoping so much for Becky Garrettson to run. She could have got it because she would have been a good person. But bottom line is,
Sure.
Barry, I tracked his phone number down because he gave it to us. He used to give it out. I don't know if he still does now, but I still had it. But, I tracked him down 2 years ago and talked to him, and he's a man of his word. He tells you what he thinks. He'll listen to you. He may not always agree with everything, but, he's going to look at it from a perspective of is it right and the best for American citizens, and I believe that's what I like to see in politicians. Yes, his family and all. I don't know all about where he goes to church and all that, but he seems to be a good Christian principled person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need more of that going up there. Of course, I told him tonight, I said, in fact, I told his wife, I said, be careful. He's going up there and swim with them sharks and that big old lake up there. Don't let him get bit.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm concerned about whenever I see anybody that I'm associated with or know. That place is called the Swamp for a reason. And you go up there, there's a good chance you're going to get stuck. You become one of the swamp people. People sort of...
Well, I sent him a text yesterday since I had his phone. I said, now, Barry, I'm getting people to vote for you. In fact, tonight I made a picture of my ballot when I voted today, and I actually showed him. I said, you see that? There you are. I marked you in. And, of course, my lovely wife, Christy's sitting over here being shy. And anyway, I told him, I said, here's 2 votes. Of course, there's a lot more votes in this room right now voting for him, too.
Oh, yeah,
But,
quite a few.
Quite a few. But tonight I've had the pleasure of meeting his mother, his wife, some other representatives who worked his campaign. He's had a good organization. I know why he won for this. Although he didn't always have the money in his pocket like his people he had to run against, it just shows sometimes that it's not all about the money. If you are the right person and you hold to your standards and get your message out, people will come to you.
Well, that's the thing. It's absolutely true that money helps, obviously. And, I think you compare the previous occupant of the District 2 when Martha Roby was running against Becky Garrettson, she was outspent 13-1, and I think Becky was probably, obviously, I personally felt she was the better candidate, but I think as a general rule, she would have been a better candidate, but it's hard to get your message out there when you don't have the money. But it can still be done.
And if you remember when that general election vote came in, Martha only got 48% of the votes. Becky got 30,000.
Right.
And that could have made a dent.
Well, and I got to tell people, because, it's a common Democrat talking point that that basically people just buy votes and there's all this dark money and whoever has the most money wins. And it's like, guys, money helps. But if there was ever a case study in how you can't just buy elections, it should have been this last election cycle. Because look at Bloomberg. He sunk tons of money in there and he never even got out of the single digits.
Yeah.
Didn't just not win, couldn't even muster a following. And so I think that talking point ought to be dead from here on out.
Well, the bottom line is, hopefully Americans understand you need to go out. It's like I told my granddaughter today, because she voted for the first time. We told her, said, listen, don't just take what a TV ad says. Don't take what grandpa tells you to do. I said, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and I'll tell you why. But you always go and investigate on your own. And that's what I think lacks today, because politicians are having to do these 30-second sound bites, and they don't get out. I go back, I'm old enough, because when I was a youth, I remember when George Wallace ran, he had a school bus and he had a band on the back, and he'd pull up in a parking lot and start playing the bluegrass band, and then he'd have people out there and he'd tell them what they're going to do. I personally think that they ought to take and set a maximum limit of how much a campaign can spend and make everybody be efficient with it, which will encourage them to have to get back out and get among the people, because that's the problem.
Yeah, now I'm not in favor of that policy. I think that just opens up the door to corruption. I mean, I understand the sentiment behind it. I do. But at the same time, I'm kind of looking at it as like, nah, that's just inviting people to cheat.
The Supreme Court would knock it down because they already had, because
that's true. Citizens
the money
United.
you're spending is a matter of free speech, and I understand that. But there's got to be some way to say keep the field level, because some of these people, you think about what's being spent in the senatorial candidacy for this.
Well, yeah, but I mean, look at what we just saw, because like I said, Bloomberg sunk as much money as he could into it. It didn't make a difference, and then. Keep in mind, the current occupant of the White House spent significantly less than his opponent and still won.
Well, and because he had the message and had a way to get it out.
And he was...
Of course, now he's been shut down since Twitter wants to shut it down. But
And another thing that helped him out, too, the guy plays the media like a fiddle. Yeah. It's hilarious to watch.
And they don't realize what the fools are making of themselves.
Yeah, well, they usually realize it about 30 seconds too late after they've already done it. But anyway...
would you like to come up here?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. You're prettier than I am.
That's his wife he's talking to off screen, for those of you who don't know. But, yeah, thanks for coming by and speaking to us, Chip. And
sure thing.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to say to the audience before you take off?
Just, folks, whatever happens, whatever the number is, it's still in God's hand. And remember who's really in control. That's all I can tell you.
Amen, brother. And that's Chip. Thank you so much for being with us. And let's go ahead and look at some of the results here, since it's been a little while since we looked at an update. Let's look at the Electoral College. The Electoral College actually has not moved. We are still sitting at 122 to 92. Oh, wow. It's like it knew that we were going to it because it just updated as I turned the screen on. So it's actually 131. So it looks like the difference maker there was the state of Colorado. Colorado has been called for Joe Biden. Again, not surprising. Everybody kind of saw that. It is a shame, too, because Colorado used to be a pretty red state, especially you're looking at, for example, the Colorado Springs area, that kind of thing. It was similar to Utah in the sense that it was kind of a bastion of conservatism out there in the Midwest, and over time, you had people moving in from other states. It became kind of a trendy, cool, hipster kind of thing to live in Colorado. And I get it. It's a beautiful state. There's all kinds of mountains and plateaus. There's a lot to do outside. And so it's kind of an adventurer's paradise. And that's why a lot of people move to Colorado. But it's just a shame to see such a beautiful state that used to be a reliable Republican stronghold just go blue like that, to where I don't think Republicans won there in a decade or so, at least on the presidential plane. There's, I'm sure, been some Republicans that have won inside the state. I'm sure there's some local Republicans, but overall, it's just very, very difficult for a Republican to win Colorado as it stands right now, and that really is a shame to see. So let's go ahead and look at some local election results. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. And you can see here, those are actually presidential election results, but we can go ahead and, there's an update. Jo Jorgensen's finally on the board with the 1% of the vote. So Jo Jorgensen, for those of you who do not know, that is the Libertarian candidate. And Tommy Tuberville, Doug Jones, wow. Tuberville is destroying Jones. It's not even close. 62%. Yeah, that one's basically done now. Barry Moore, who, of course, we're actually doing our show from his election party right now, he is at 54%, so he's winning his race handedly. Mike Rogers currently beating Ida Winfrey. 64%. That's a really big win for him, pretty conclusive. The Montgomery County school tax levy, 63% for it. Yeah, it looks like that's going to pass. It's interesting, though. Granted, my default reaction is to just be against every tax, and I understand that. I know that nobody's surprised that Caleb's against taxation. That's just kind of, I mean, you know what you're getting when you come to the show, so if you're upset by that, you only have yourself to blame. But it does irritate me that the solution to every problem within the Montgomery school system is, hey, let's throw more money at it. And they've been doing that my entire life. I'm 30 years old. They've been doing that ever since I was born. I didn't go to school in the Montgomery system. I went to school in Autauga County. But they've been doing it my entire life. It hasn't worked yet, hasn't even really improved it yet. And yet, it's the only solution they continue to come up with. Now, there are several, I would say at least a dozen things that you could do to actually help the Montgomery school system, and continually their only solution is, well, let's tax people more and throw more money at the problem. And there's a reason that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, getting the same results, and expecting something different to happen. So, whenever there is a proposal for taxation of any kind, whether you're talking about local, state, federal, this is the question I always tell people to ask. Have they used the money they already have responsibly? Because if the answer is no, then your answer to whether or not they should raise taxes should also be no. If you're a dad and your son or daughter takes your credit card and spends like a drunken sailor, and they come back to you asking for money later, the answer should be no. They have proven they cannot be responsible with what they've already been given. Ergo, you should not be trusting them with more money. And politicians, as our employees, should be held to that same standard. I don't think that's an unreasonable position to take. So, if you are a politician that is willing to go in, to slash spending, to cut the fat, and then after you have cut it down to the bare bones, then you come back to me and say, well, we're going to need some more taxes. Then I might be open to hearing it. But until that happens, the answer is going to be no every single time. I don't live in Montgomery. I'm an Elmore citizen, and so because of that, I don't get a say in it. But it just irritates the mess out of me that is their solution to absolutely every problem, is to take more of your money and waste more of it. Because they've been getting the same results for 30 years, and it hasn't changed yet. So, it looks like we've got... Oh, no, wait. That's a different thing. Okay, so we have a weather report going on right now. So there's nothing going on the WSFA front. Let's go ahead and check back in with the Electoral College. Let's see, is there anything reported that I need to make mention of? Okay, so no official numbers yet, but Florida is at 93% reporting. And that is, yeah, let's go ahead and just switch over to that, because we've got some interesting things going on over here. My fancy technology. All right, so right now, Florida is at 51% for Donald Trump. The fact that we have a 51% going into a 93% reporting is very, very good. I'm not sure what counties he's missing, because if he's missing, for example, one of the counties that has Miami or Jacksonville, or one of the other major metropolitan areas, then maybe we're in trouble. But if all of those places have already reported, then there's very little chance that Joe Biden is going to pull that one out. And like I said, Florida is not necessarily must-win for Biden, but it is absolutely, without question, a must-win for Trump. He cannot win this election without Florida. Let's look at Georgia. Georgia is reporting for Trump 56-42. Now, they are only 47% reporting, but that is a very, very good sign for President Trump. It looks like he's going to win Georgia. A lot of people were predicting that would be a true swing state. I said no. Nay, I say to you. North Carolina, it looks like with 82% voting that Biden is actually in the lead. But it's very, very tight. That's 51-48. If Trump can lose North Carolina and still win, but that would be a pretty big loss. North Carolina is one that he's expected to win out on. The recent polling showed that Trump was doing better in North Carolina. It's only 82%, and this is a very close race, so it is very much in contention, but whether or not that's going to come out in the wash, who can say. Texas. Texas is currently at 58 for Trump, 48 for Biden. Again, I don't really see him losing Texas. Kansas, yeah, Trump's got that win. No reporting yet for Iowa. Minnesota, Joe Biden with the big lead there. As I said, there were a lot of pollsters that were saying that Minnesota was in contention. I say they're smoking crack. Every poll went for Biden in a big way. I think the closest one was Trump plus 7. So I just don't see Donald Trump pulling Minnesota off. Again, they get better information than us. They considered it in contention, so maybe there was a good reason for that, but I do not see that being the case. Whoa. Sorry, I just realized we can zoom in on that. Sorry about that. All right, let's look at Wisconsin. If my map will pull up, there we go. Yeah, so Wisconsin right now, Biden with a very slim lead and 22% reporting. That one really doesn't worry me all that much. It just, we don't know. I don't think that Trump will win Wisconsin, but he still could. These numbers do not scare me. Same thing for Michigan, also 22% reporting. Whoa, Donald Trump actually has a commanding lead in Michigan. Now, granted, it's low reporting, so that could be erased very quickly, but that stuns me. I am surprised enough to make comment about it, so... Okay, Ohio, Biden winning Ohio, but not by much. I can't see Biden winning Ohio just based on all of the recent polling. Let's see. Sorry about that, guys. Pennsylvania. Biden with a very slim lead in Pennsylvania. So, I don't know. I don't see that being a big problem. There's so little reporting. But as I said, Pennsylvania is the key state. I think whoever wins Pennsylvania wins it all. But we will see. Let's see, is there any other state we need to focus on? I think that's pretty much it for now. Polls haven't even closed in the West. And so we're just kind of in a holding pattern waiting for that to be revealed for us later. Oh, wait. We've got applause. Senator Graham's race has just been called. Now, I'm very glad that this was not a contest of testosterone because I'm pretty sure Lindsey Graham loses that one, but he has won his Senate seat back. Graham will remain in actually a pretty commanding victory. That's a 52-43 victory. So Graham in South Carolina, and that's not a big surprise. They've already called South Carolina for Trump. South Carolina's had really, really big Republican turnout, and that means yet another Senate seat that was at least kind of up in the air is going to remain in Republican hands. As I said last night, I don't see the Senate going... I think that there's only a one-vote margin of change. So in other words, I don't think that they're going to lose the majority regardless. I think they might gain a seat and they might lose a seat, but they're not going to lose the whole thing. And that's largely because Doug Jones is going to get his plow cleaned. And the race has shown that so far. So far, what we are seeing is a very commanding Tuberville lead. I think 66 was the most recent result of that. Mike Rogers with a 64% lead over Ada Winfrey. Let's see, can I get the Tuberville results? It doesn't look like I can pull those up, at least not right now. All right, so that's where we stand as of this second. Hang on. I got to bring your mic up. There we go. Yeah.
So Fox has it at 129 to 109 in electoral.
I have 131 to 92 in electoral. I'm looking
Electoral?
I'm looking at New York Times. By the way, you're a little close to the camera. Back up a little bit.
Okay.
And you can take the mic with you.
I can take the mic back. Yeah. Is that
Yeah,
good?
yeah, that's good.
There we go.
We can actually see you now. See, Chip moved it too far forward because he had to move back way back because he's a tall guy.
Yeah.
So just having to adjust based on who I interview. But yeah, so right now, and I just went through all of the states that are in contention, what the reporting that we've got. I have to say, you remember you and I were having this conversation earlier.
Yeah.
You said Trump was going to win Michigan. And I said, I don't see it happening. Right now, with 23% reporting, so not a lot, but Trump has a pretty commanding lead with 57% of the vote in Michigan. That is impressive.
Okay.
Now, maybe Biden pulls it out and I turn out to be right, but I would love to be proven wrong.
How much
on
of
this
Detroit's in?
Let's look at that real quick. Detroit is Ingham County? No. Detroit is Wayne County, and Donald Trump is winning that 53-45. But they only have 3% reporting. So
From Detroit. See,
yeah, that's going to go.
That's what you got to
blue.
look. You got to look at Detroit.
Yeah.
I know what the
Let's see.
outlying area is going to do.
Yeah, so Trump is winning Michigan with 28%. That's another big metropolitan area. Ann Arbor, Biden is winning with 25%. That's no surprise. But it looks like, I mean, Michigan just has very low reporting. So we'll have to see where that goes.
What about Ohio? Where is it right now?
Actually, Biden is leading in Ohio right this second. So hang on.
Typically,
my map's
what I've
loading.
seen through the years is that the cities come in first.
Yeah, that
and the
tends to be
outlying
the case.
areas, it takes longer to get the ballots. And I don't know how they vote there.
Right.
But it's always been that way as long as I've been watching politics. The outlying areas, it takes longer to get those votes in.
Right.
But we actually do, a long time ago, before you were involved in all of this, you had paper ballots and things like that, and they had to bring those things in, and they brought them in.
Yes, in
to a
days
county
of
seat
yore.
time. Yeah, I mean, it was done that way.
Yeah, and let's see, I'm trying to pull up Ohio here. That is the way that they used to have to do it, and that took longer, but now it's much closer to instantaneous, and you don't get as much of a delay on the rural areas because it is digital, so they can send them in. In fact, based on the state, there are some states where actually your rural voting gets counted earlier because there's less of them. And since they're sent in digitally anyway, it winds up actually being a little bit faster in the rural areas. So Ohio right now, they are neck and neck. It is Biden with 49.5, Donald Trump with 49.2. So it is real close. That's actually good, though, because...
Is that the tip point state?
No. I think Trump wins Ohio. I didn't even cover that as a one in contention the other night. I think
you're right.
Yeah, I think I am. This is 64% reporting, so it's more than I feel comfortable with, but I think Trump winds up pulling Ohio out pretty easily. I think we're going to see at least
Okay, so what are
two
the key states left?
The key states.
What about Texas?
Texas is Trump 50, Biden 48.
Okay.
So it's close, but I don't see Trump losing Texas. All of the recent polling shows a trend towards him. Florida is a big one, of course. Florida has Donald Trump winning by 4 points now.
Yeah.
It's 51-47.
Yeah, Florida looked good.
Yeah, I think Florida winds up going for Trump. And it is his second home.
Yeah.
I get that the second you think about Donald Trump, you think about New York, and that's correct. But Florida is his second home. And so
I think
he does really well in Florida.
To me, Florida, the elderly population has a great deal to do with how they ultimately turn out, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's a statement, or that's a reaction to the coronavirus. They were trying to scare the Florida people to death, the elderly people.
Yeah,
and it didn't turn out that way.
Well, it had more success than you would think. Donald Trump is actually, at least looking at how the demographic breakdown is, Donald Trump has actually lost some of the elderly vote. Not a ton, but enough to make a difference. But he's losing that, and he has lost, like I said, some suburban white voters, and he has made gains in other areas. But the thing is, especially with his narrow victories he pulled out in the popular vote last time, because he actually lost the popular vote.
Well, someone asked
really
me
didn't
earlier,
need to lose anyway.
I think we're a week or two out from deciding this thing.
I hope you're wrong. I really do.
I do too.
I want to I want to say to you right now, Dad, that's crazy. Don't even say that. That's ridiculous. But I can't because I think that it might actually pan out that way. I hope it doesn't. But
See, I remember Al Gore.
well, I do too.
Yeah.
I wasn't very old, but I
Yeah.
do remember it. I was,
And-
12 when that happened?
I always have the image in my mind of the guy looking up at the Chads like that.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. And he had a little Chad going down like that.
Yeah, I actually saw some. What was it? Oh, it was on How I Met Your Mother. One of the characters dresses up as a hanging Chad for Halloween.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Well, you've got to. We have so many impressions of things on our mind
Yeah.
from past elections, and this is going to be an interesting one. There's no question about it. It will be memorable.
I hope it's not. I want elections to be boring.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess
don't get me
so.
wrong. An exciting election is fantastic for my ratings.
Yeah.
But this is what I said about the Supreme Court nominations that we recently had. Now, elections, I don't think that there's anything wrong with them being exciting. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather them be just in the bag, but at the same time, I understand how an election can be exciting and it be high
It's
tension.
like a
whatever.
close football game.
Right.
Or baseball game.
A Supreme Court nomination should be the most dry, boring event
Yeah.
that you can possibly, like, it should be what C-SPAN normally is, to where it makes you want to fall asleep.
Yeah,
Because-
but that's one thing that has
Because it
changed
shouldn't be
dramatically.
politicized. Yeah.
It's changed dramatically because there was a time where it was expected
Right.
for no matter what side it was, they would go ahead and approve whoever the president was. There would be some dissension, but not a lot.
Well, and that really has to do with the pre-Bork era. If you go before Robert Bork, that was just kind of a
Yeah.
thing. Once the president. Now, I don't even necessarily think that that's a good thing per se, because if I get a judge in front of me and I don't think that they're going to rule in accordance with the Constitution, I vote against them.
Yeah.
I actually like the fact that now we are evaluating them a little more closely.
Yes.
The problem with that is we've made it so hyper-partisan that basically if a person of the opposing party nominates them, I'm voting against them automatically.
You know what we've done?
That's not good either.
We've made the Supreme Court nominations into a reality TV show.
Well, we've really made them into another
A
election.
sensationalized reality TV show is what it is. What it looks like to me.
To a great degree it is, but that's because that's what our politics as a whole has become. Because the Supreme Court was always designed to be separate and apart from politics. That's why they have lifetime appointments.
Yes.
That's why they are not elected. The people have no direct say in who is their Supreme Court
And that's
justice.
why it's become hyper political now.
Because we're
of that.
treating them like they are politicians. We're treating them like they are lawmakers and that they can push policies through. And
Yeah.
that's why it's become
They're
the
supposed
way
to
that it
make a
is.
decision based on what's in front of them, regardless of that,
Right, and that's what
and
what
use
is
the
happening.
Constitution to do that. But they don't do that anymore.
Right, and because they don't, because this is this is the status that we find ourselves in, that's why we're having the hyper-partisan back and forth between the two. And it's interesting because we were talking about Robert Bork a second ago.
Yeah.
It took Republicans time to catch up to that. Because you remember, well after Robert Bork, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was nominated, it was very clear that she was going to wind up being an incredibly liberal justice, still
Yeah.
gets approved 97-0.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? And supposedly conservatives are the dividers,
Right.
which is garbage.
Now, I would have straight up voted against Ruth Bader Ginsburg, even without the advantage of hindsight.
What I'm worried about,
But-
too, there's one thing you do have to worry about. Trump wins, I think there are places that are going to be torn to pieces tomorrow.
I think that's going to happen either way.
I don't think so. I mean, if Biden wins, Republicans don't do that stuff.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be Republicans doing it, but I do think things are going to be torn up.
Well, the thing about it is the rioters in the street don't give a rip about Biden
No,
either.
they never have. It's
That's
like,
what they think, but it's not true.
It's like in Chicago when the Cubs or the White Sox win the series. Like, they win and they still tear stuff up.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, but
It
that's
doesn't
what
make any
happens.
sense. Like with the Lakers, they won the championship, they tear up stuff.
Right. I never have understood that, but that's the way it goes.
See, we
And
roll
so I
our
think-
tree and we're very peaceful and have a good time with it.
Yeah, but that's controlled chaos.
Yes, we roll our trees.
Yep.
Yes, I'm back on air.
Hey, he stepped up to the mic. It's not my fault.
Yeah, tell him to be on it.
Yeah.
Where is Mark?
Yeah, we're here. We have an open mic. This is open mic night here at the.
It is. I'm just his dad, so I'll come up here and do it.
Yeah, I've had a couple people say something. We've had people comment online asking
Yeah, we'll
questions.
get someone else on here.
Get somebody to see if they can stump the host. Maybe we can play
There
that
you
for a
go.
little while.
That's not that hard.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. But yeah, so right now, let's go ahead and look at some results because we're having more reporting. In the state of Alabama, Trump is got a commanding lead. I think that doesn't really surprise anyone. Tommy Tuberville's got 62% of the vote. As I predicted, that one's not even going to be close. Doug Jones, the second that he voted against Kavanaugh, I think that he actually decided that he was not going to that he was going to lose before then, but the second that he voted against Kavanaugh, he sealed his fate. That was the end of him. He had zero chance after that. I think you probably sold it beforehand, but or you wanted to talk to me?
I was just wondering what this is.
Oh, yeah, we're broadcasting live, News Radio 1440.
All right.
You want to be on mic?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
I'm guessing I'm on camera too.
Yeah, you'll be on camera. Yeah. All right. So, what's your name?
My name's Chad. Chad Lucci.
All right, Chad Lucci. So what are you doing here tonight?
Well, I've been working with Barry Moore for a few months now, and I came out here to watch him win.
How old are you?
I'm 18 years old, sir.
All right, excellent. So this is your first election?
This is my first election. I just got done voting a few hours ago. It was mayhem at the voting station.
I can imagine.
I've been to the voting station a few times over the last few years, and this is the most chaotic I've ever seen it.
All right, I'm going to ask you to do something, Chad. Grab the mic and just back up a couple steps because you're a little too close to the camera. Yeah.
All right, I get that.
It's not your fault. I mean, that's just how it's set up.
That.
But yeah, so how did you vote today? Did you obviously you're here, so I'm guessing you voted for Barry Moore, considering you're wearing the sticker.
I did vote for Barry Moore.
So give us your thoughts on some of the other elections.
Well, I'm not very knowledgeable where Doug Jones and Tuberville are concerned.
Okay.
I only got involved with them recently. I haven't worked with their campaign at all, but I got to see a speech by one of his campaign managers at a rally with Barry Moore recently. It's really the only interaction I've had with their campaign, so I'm not really going to speak about it at all.
Okay, fair.
And where Trump is concerned, I've actually been working with the Trump campaign out in Georgia.
I see.
And I don't know anything about the numbers in there right now because no one does at the moment.
Or
maybe you do. I don't know. You probably
have
a little bit right now.
The New York Times, I'm using them. So,
yeah.
Trump has a pretty commanding lead there with 52% reporting, 55 to 43. I said last night, because I was doing a state-by-state analysis,
right.
Trump's going to win Georgia. He may not win some of the other states that are in contention, but he's got Georgia in the bag.
Yeah, I called up some of the people that I know are on the campaign out there, and they weren't really sure. I tried to call them up an hour ago, but obviously they're busy. That no one answered right now. So
I'm glad they're not sure because that motivates them to work really hard.
Oh yes, they're some of the most hardworking campaigners I've ever met. So
I got to ask you this, Chad, because typically what happens is that young people don't really start getting involved in politics until they're working full-time, have a job, having kids, and right around the time they're in their mid-30s, they start really getting involved in politics. And even then, they just kind of tangentially pay attention to it.
Right.
You're so involved, you've been working for 2 campaigns already, and you're only 18 years old. What motivated you to do that?
Well, funny enough, I was 17, it was summer, and I was out of a job at the moment. Obviously, I don't really need one as I don't have to pay for my housing right now, but I'd like to have one. And
very socialistic of you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Anyway, continue with your story. I'm sorry.
I thought we were about to have a problem there. Somebody called me socialist.
Go ahead.
So Heather Moore, Barry Moore's wife, had put out some posts on Facebook asking for some volunteers, for some paid help in their campaign out in Prattsville near Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother had contacted them and had a man named Tyler give me a call. After that, I started connecting with Tyler. He was one of their field directors. I ended up personally working with him doing door knocking, and we ended up, hitting it off pretty well. We did a pretty good job working, and ended up working with their campaign pretty much full time. I'm actually one of their only paid staffers right now for the current campaign, and I'm even going to have to work with them afterwards, helping pick up signs and such.
Yeah, excellent.
And then where Trump's concerned, that same guy, Tyler, left the campaign after the runoff. He went to Georgia to work for President Trump, and he invited me to go over there and, help them out with that campaign some. So that's what I've been doing as well.
I got to tell you, Chad, I'm kind of surprised that the Trump campaign and the Moore campaign are so tightly connected, considering, Barry's so anti-Trump, as we heard from Jeff Coleman. I'm surprised to hear that. You remember that, right?
Not really. My first ever interaction where I was concerned with Coleman was the Facebook debate, or it wasn't Facebook debate, but I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah.
It was a debate they hosted, so I don't know anything about what you're talking about, sadly.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
All right.
Just a little inside joke between me and the audience. So.
You have to remember that Jeff Coleman is a businessman.
He is.
That's right. I'd forgotten that because he only said it like once, maybe twice. Right, it was about 80. Once, twice, 80, I can't remember. So, tell me this, Chad. What issues are important to your friends, people that are around your age group? What would you say are the biggest issues for a young person right now?
Well, I'll start off with me personally.
Okay.
When it comes to that, one of my biggest issues is when it comes to our foreign affairs, especially with China. I believe that when it comes to the communist regime in China, we are starting to see a repetition of history when it comes to the 20 years prior to World War II with Nazi Germany. I believe that we are seeing a very scarily close representation of that. I've been keeping up with China ever since the beginning of the Hong Kong protests last year. And it's been something that I've focused on researching before I was even involved in politics. I was researching China. My first time ever meeting Barry Moore, I flooded that man's poor ears with information about China and Uyghur concentration camps in, the Tibetan region and such.
Yeah, and I gotta say, for the Democrat Party, who constantly pretends to be very concerned about religious freedom and persecution of Muslims, and every time there's a terrorist attack, they go into some kind of bizarre lecture about how Americans have to remember that it's hashtag not all Muslims. But then the Uyghur thing is going on in China, and they basically act like it doesn't exist. That just baffles me.
What's weird about that is everyone acts like it doesn't exist. You see nations such as Turkey, which have declared themselves the protector of the Islamic faith, ignoring it, despite the fact that that is their job as as they declare themselves. No, not Islam.
No,
jump on in.
Yes, you're more knowledgeable on this than I am. I don't want to mess anybody up.
Yeah, so my name is Jackson Myers. I'm a friend of Chad over here.
Yeah.
So pretty much whenever it comes to the Turkey situation, anyone that's been keeping up with Turkey would see that their current leader has very much focused on a Turkic people kind of focused policy, right? They've declared themselves a protector of the Turkish people, so that includes people within Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Turkey, obviously, and different regions around the planet, right?
So Turkey first is what you're telling me.
Turkey, or not Turkey first, but Turkish people first, right?
Right.
And that would include the region of East Turkestan within what we know as Xikang, if I got my Chinese pronunciation right, which is where the which would be Xizang, which would be where the concentration camps are.
Right.
So actually, China is one of the only forces that are pushing heavily against the Chinese government. So
China's pushing against China. You meant Turkey.
Turkey, my bad. I'm not the best at talking. Turkey.
It does make sense. China is pushing against China too.
Of course, everyone knows about their civil rights and all that. But no, Turkey is actually one of the few nations pushing against China. There we go. That's my end.
Okay.
All right. I guess I'm not very knowledgeable on the Middle Eastern affairs, so don't take my word of being offended by it, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
But so back on that. Foreign relations is one that's really important to you. You're worried about China.
It is a big thing to me. Of course, as I've been getting more interested in the last year in more internal politics, there's been any other things that have come up as a concern to me.
Okay, like what?
Well, especially with the economy and such. I wasn't always the biggest supporter of President Trump, but another thing for me has been seeing this establishment going completely against him, like this coordinated attack. Just seems very strange, as I've not always been the biggest fan of neoconservatism, like traditional Republican values before Trump came on board.
Okay.
And I very much like Trump's nuance, new conservative values, like reforming what the Republican Party can be. And I feel like young people like myself, can relate with that way better than what the Republican Party was. I feel like the Republican Party might have started dying out, and Trump has come in and saved it.
It's interesting because I have seen, we've seen a really interesting trend with President Trump. Because initially, especially, he really, really struggled with young people. And young people is still not his forte, but he's doing a lot better with them in this election cycle than he did in the last one. And do you think that that's, maybe partially because of Gen Z getting to be to where they're 18 and can vote now? And do you see that as a factor?
Well, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you, but I think I got the general idea of what you said.
Okay.
Basically, what I think has been a big thing, and for me personally, before the election, I can't really say if I was a fan or not, because, I was 14, I wasn't really that involved with it. But definitely over the years, seeing, especially being involved with YouTube and such, a lot of channels like Memology 101 and America Uncovered and such, where it's in my face a lot how corrupt a lot of, especially like censorship can be in our country. And just seeing these constant attacks on him, a lot of stuff that I personally believed originally until I finally found another source that was more on Trump's side and defending him, and I realized how much they were skewing his words.
I see.
And it took about a year or two for me to really catch on with everything, but once I did, I started seeing, especially with these riots, and them putting the blame on Trump. And one of the biggest things for me is, I believe, wasn't it the Michigan governor that there was the kidnapping plot against?
Yeah, Governor Whitmire.
Right. And her claiming that they were a far right.
Well,
group.
She claimed that they were, basically said that it was Trump's fault.
Yeah, they were far right, despite the fact that their leader is an open anarchist.
Yeah.
And,
well, she actually said he was a Trump supporter. Like, that was actually part of her speech.
Yeah,
it wasn't just that they were right, that they were Trump supporters.
Yeah, despite the fact that on YouTube, you can see his videos of him claiming how much he hates Trump.
Yeah.
And I've always saw that was, I had already, woken up and been a fan of Trump, but that's just like a great example of how weird it is. It's like,
yeah, that's a great case
these
study.
These people were trying to kidnap and murder you, and you were still willing to go after the president, the only person that's been trying to support people like you, who would be in these kind of situations, trying to give you the assistance of our government. And she's still gonna back up and go with the mainstream. It's so weird to me. I'm wondering what the motive is.
Yeah, I think that that's a great point, and I think that that really has brought some people to come and say, well, now wait a second. They're saying something that has no basis in fact whatsoever. And so I think that that does change some people's minds on some of the issues that you're talking about when they see. It's one thing to see bias, but what you're talking about is just straight up blatant lies made up out of nothing, and I think that that really does move the needle.
Fiery but mostly peaceful.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Mostly peaceful protest.
Yeah.
It's like the Titanic. It had a mostly peaceful voyage.
Yeah, I mean, it did sail for quite a while, so.
Right, I tell people that all the time. Is like, you have to remember that for the 94% of the Titanic's voyage was completely peaceful. There were no problems.
Yeah.
And so, all right, well, thank you so much, Chad, for joining us on the program. You seem like a sharp young guy, and we hope to see good things from you in the future.
What is this?
News Radio 1440. We do an internet podcast.
Are you on YouTube? What are you on?
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope. Pretty much all the venues, actually.
What, are you live right now?
Yeah, we're live right now.
Let me find you guys real quick.
All right. Let me see if I've actually left my business cards at home. That's not good, especially tonight.
I'm gonna look for you real quick.
But yeah, just look for Tactics Radio. You'll be able to find us.
What'd you say it was again?
Tactics Radio.
Tactics Radio.
That's it. Yeah, we're on right now.
All right. So. You have a good day.
All right. Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it. All right. So we'll go ahead and look at some results. Since it's been a little while since we've done that, we'll go ahead and pull up the latest for the Electoral College. Oh, you want to come on? All right. Okay. But we'll get you next. Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. So we'll go ahead and let me bring your mic up. Hey, so what's your name?
I am Sherry McCormick.
All right, Sherry. Sorry, I'm just adjusting your mic here. I'm a one-man band here tonight. I'm having to do everything myself.
I understand that. I have run the entire grassroots of this campaign, so I understand what it's like to have to do.
Okay, so you work for the Barrymore campaign.
I do.
Excellent. We've heard from quite a few of the people working on the campaign.
Yes.
So, give us a brief summary of sort of the journey for Barrymore from the primaries all the way through to up where now he's got a commanding lead in the polls and probably going to be our next District 2 representative.
Sure. Well, it was about this time. Well, it was in July of 2019. What is it, 2020? When we found out that Martha wasn't going to run, we really put it into prayer and to see what we should do. And Barry felt like God was saying, run this race. And so that's what we did. And we just never looked back. We just worked really, really, really hard. We had to overcome a lot of odds and obstacles, especially like with money and staff and everything. But we had hearts. We had hearts like you would not believe. The hearts of people from our hometowns, the hearts of people from up here in the river region and from over in the west part of the district in Covington County and that area. These hearts of people just really came together, and it really made a difference from the primary and then to the runoff. But then we had COVID, and when COVID hit, that really gave us an opportunity to show the people of the district what a Barrymore congressional office would look like. So we went right to work. Instead of just like not doing anything with the campaign, we came into the office and we started doing unemployment, helping people with their unemployment, helping people with their PPP loans, helping people stay encouraged about what was happening in this world with COVID. And so people really got a good idea of what his office would look like on a national scale, and we really think that made a huge difference. So it's just really truly been an outpouring of love, an outpouring of God's favor upon us, because I will tell you this, it's not us. We couldn't do this. This is all God, and so we give him all the glory, all the praise, all the honor, and we just bow down to him. This is his night. He will be magnified, and we are just here to do that. So.
I love to hear that, and it's interesting that right before bringing in the fact that there was a real God presence here, that one of the things that you discussed was also that it seemed as though the coronavirus was going to be a hindrance, and it actually kind of wound up helping the campaign in some ways. And God just has a tendency to do that, doesn't he? Just to take things that seem like they ought to be horrible situations and make the best out of them.
Listen, there's no doubt this is a God thing, because really, we're only here by a little over 600 votes. I think 603, 604 votes. And the day of the primary, a storm hit up around Prattville, Autauga County, which is where Jessica Taylor was from.
Right.
She's the big hometown girl up there, like how Barry is down here.
Yep.
And so, but a storm came. It was beautiful at Enterprise in Geneva, but up here, it was just like a monsoon, but it was enough. It was enough, and we just see God's pouring his just. There's just been a fresh outpouring of His love, and it's just all honest. And we're just normal people. We're just normal people who have allowed ourselves to be opened up to be vessels to go and do God's work, and that's what we're going to continue to do in this district. That's what we're going to continue to do in every part of our lives.
Well, now, I got to say, I absolutely love that, because my favorite line in the entire Declaration of Independence is with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence. And so that's, you talk about it just being normal people that trusted in God. That's what our founders believed. That's what they wanted for American citizens. It's great to hear that.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Well, looks like maybe they're going to call
it. Yeah, it looks
it.
like something's going on here.
Are we going to call it?
Oh, they did?
Call it?
Excellent.
Woo!
Yeah,
okay, little one that's got to go to school tomorrow. Can he just go up there and
Yeah, we can do that. All right. Yep. You can take the mic off of that stand if that helps. There we go. All right. Well, we have not a voter, obviously, but hey, what's your name?
Mark Cason Nixon.
All right, Mark. What are you doing here?
Supporting Barrymore.
Excellent answer. How old are you?
12.
Man, you are getting involved in politics at a much younger age than I did. I didn't really get involved until I was in my early 20s, so it's really great to see you out here tonight.
Yeah, I won student council treasurer at school.
Really? Where do you go to school?
Wetumpka.
Wetumpka. My dad graduated from Wetumpka. So, anything you'd like to say to our viewers tonight?
I mean, I'm just thankful that Barrymore won, and
well, I think that about sums it up. Thank you so much for being here with us.
He won his first political race himself. He's the treasurer of the student council.
Yeah, he was just telling us about that.
He did, okay.
Yeah, at Wetumpka.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you so much for being on the program with us. I appreciate it.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. A kid from France?
Yes.
What, you mean like to interview?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can bring him on.
You could just talk to him about his politics.
Yeah, I'd love to hear his. Thank you.
Wasn't
Yes,
that
ma'am.
young guy amazing?
I thought so. I mean, articulate for his age too. I can see why I won his election.
Both of them.
All right, so it looks like there's a whole bunch of people clearing out, and that's because Barry Moore's about to speak. They just called the race for him. The Associated Press has called it for Barry Moore, and so we're going to be going to that here in just a second. Barry's about to speak, right? Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to have him on and show his speech as soon as they bring it on WSFA. We'll get you in a little bit. We'll get you right after that. Thank you. All right, so we should be going to WSFA's feed of that in just a second. Everybody's going to be looking for Barry Moore's big victory speech. In the meantime, let's go ahead and look at some other polls. It looks like they have called it for Robert Adderholt, another representative here from the great state of Alabama. Not really a surprise there. We kind of saw that one coming, and that's perfectly okay. 85%, so a commanding victory. That's a crushing victory over Rick Neighbors for sure. So, yeah, it looks like he's gone ahead and started his speech. I'm sure that WSFA is about to go to that. James Averhart has, that's Alabama House District 1. They are not calling it because that is only 9% reporting, but the Alabama House, James Averhart is actually winning by 10 points. Again, early reporting, only 9%, probably not something to worry about. Tanya Chestnut is leading Lisa Keith. Now, that is a little surprising, and with 38% reporting, that is no small deal. But Lisa Keith, personal friend of mine, I really would hate to see her to lose that race. I think that she's been fantastic for the board. I don't always agree with her on everything, but she's incredibly passionate. She really knows her stuff, and she really has been one of the few voices of reason on the Alabama State Board of Education. And I'm really quite surprised to see that she's not doing better. That's early reporting. It is a Democrat beating a Republican in a ruby red state. So frankly, I kind of expect that one to be called before too long. We will see. I'm looking at some of the numbers here. Twinkle Andrews Kavanaugh is currently beating Laura Casey. That's really not surprising. I fully expected Twinkle to win. I didn't vote for her. I'm not really a big Twinkle fan, but you know, she's a Republican. She's an entrenched bureaucrat. She's probably going to win this thing. So I really don't see that one as being in contention. She's probably going to wind up winning that one, walking away. That is a walk-off home run for her if I've ever seen one. The tax levy has actually gotten a little tighter, probably not tight enough to where against could actually win, but it is 61% in favor. I don't see a reporting number on that one, which kind of surprises me. I don't know why they haven't put how many have reported. I mean, maybe those numbers just aren't available because it is a local race, and that's quite possible. So 61% to 39 in favor. It looks like Barry Moore is about to give his speech. I hope WSFA cuts to that really quickly because they're missing. Well, they're probably not missing it. There's probably just a delay in the broadcast. I know WSFA is out here because I've already seen Brian a couple times. So They will be going to that in short order, I am quite certain. So while that's going on and they're talking about that, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the... actually, Trump has just gained a few more electoral college votes. They have called Wyoming for him. And yeah, that's only 3 votes, but it's still significant. So Donald Trump has won Wyoming. That is the New York Times reporting it. They have officially called that race. Let's go ahead and do a quick update on some of the other polling. We're again going to the New York Times feed here. So if you look there, you can see that Montana is starting to report. That is a new development. They have 13% reporting. With 13% reporting, they currently have Joe Biden at 58. Oh, Barry Moore, his feed is on. We go live now to WSFA.
Trump delegate. She's a political mind like her mom. Jeremy and his wife, Brittany. Jeremy. And Brittany's birthday, so happy birthday. And Dad, I got to thank Dad and Nana right here. He's a team player, man. I mean, I don't know how many times he probably hit his thumb with a hammer trying to put a nail in a tree for me in this campaign. And so it's that kind of thing that allowed us to do what we did. And so Heather's mom, Nanny Cat as we call her, my brother and his wife and my sister and her husband, all the siblings, the nieces and nephews, they've been a big part of what we're doing.
All right, so, right now we want to go to Tommy Tuberville. He is addressing his supporters right
come
now.
on, WSFA, don't cut away.
And now go to Tommy Tuberville and hear what he has to say.
No, man, I'm good. I got to do this.
The liberals of California, New York, and Washington, D.C. learned the hard way that Alabama's Senate seat cannot be bought. If you allow me to quote one of my opponent's many campaign ads, they can all go to hell and get a job as far as I'm concerned. As a coach, I know how hard it is. You work hard and you do things and you try to win. I want to thank Doug Jones for his hard work and effort, but it's time to go home. Sometimes you end up on the wrong side of the scoreboard, and it was a big scoreboard loss for him. So, running for the Senate has been the most difficult thing I've ever done. And I've done a lot of hard things, but let me tell you something. If you're going to do it right. And I want to thank all of you out there. A lot of you welcome me to your communities and your factories and your businesses and all that. And I've met a lot of great people, made a lot of good friends. I wouldn't take anything for it. Even if we'd come up on the short end tonight, I would not take anything for it. I thought a major college football coach worked hard. And, probably I could have taken the easy route and said, I'm just kind of go through the motions. But I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it the right way. And for the last 2 years, I've pretty much been doing that. So I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for the commitment of my wife, Suzanne. And my sons, Tucker and Troy.
Tubbsy won it. They called it.
When I started this, I said, Suzanne, if I run for the Senate, would you support me? She said, don't come home till you win. Folks, I'm going home tonight. I'm finally going home. So, Suzanne, Tucker, and Troy, thank you for your love and support because it's been hard. And when you're away from your family, it takes away. But I'm going to tell you something. It also makes you stronger. And these three have been behind me the whole way. I wish my mom and dad could be here tonight, but I lost them, both of them. Well, I lost my dad years ago. I lost my mom a few years. My mom worked for General Dynamics. She made weapons for young men and women to fight in wars over the years. My dad, as you know, I said this last time, he quit school at 16, joined the Army, landed at Normandy at 18, drove a tank across Europe. He drove a tank through the streets, and one of the few things he ever told me about the war, and he never talked much. He said, "I've never gotten the look on the people's face in Paris when we liberated Paris from socialism and communism." He said they were in depression. He said we drove through those streets, and those people were absolutely, you just couldn't believe how happy they were. So, my dad landed in Normandy, drove a tank across Europe, was awarded 5 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart, and he was a war hero, like many more. And I'll tell you, it's people like him and millions more men and women that have given their life, or men and women that have given limbs, their eyesight been burned over the years, to give us the freedom as men and women to vote as we voted today. I mean, that's what's important. As the media and my opponent often pointed out, $25 million worth. Man, I'd like to have a TV station. Folks, hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. I want y'all to listen to this. President Trump. President Trump. Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Chipperfield. This is Lloyd, operator.
Yes, sir.
Yes, one moment for the Vice President.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice President Pence. Kind of works like my phone. Vice President Pence. Hello. We're going to have to put him on hold if he don't get on in a minute. Hello.
Senator Mike Pence calling. Congratulations.
Vice President, I got you on microphone here, Mr. Vice President. We're several hundred of your fans, President Trump's fans, and if you would say a few words, I'm going to put the phone to the microphone.
Well, let me just say to everybody all across the state of Alabama, thank you for delivering a great victory for President Donald Trump, and thank you for sending a great new senator to Washington, D.C. I'm standing here at the White House, literally just off the Rose Garden. I'll be with the president in just a few minutes. I know he's going to be excited that I got a chance to hear the cheering crowd in Alabama. But I think President Donald Trump loves the people of Alabama, and we're going to keep our head down. And I got to tell y'all, it is looking good for tonight, and we are so grateful. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for supporting a great new senator. And if the president and I prevail tonight, I promise you we're going to work our hearts out for the people of Alabama. We're going to work with your great new Senator Tommy Tuberville, and we're going to make America great again.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. God bless you and your family.
You too. Thank you. Good luck. We're pulling for you. I've always told my kids it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? So, as the media has pointed out, I didn't get here the normal way. I'm not a career politician, and I'm not, thank you, and I'm not from the swamp. So, I'm an outsider who believes in conservative values. And I'm going to tell you something. Over the years, coaching, you don't have a lot of time. And so I didn't watch TV a whole lot other than watching films and watching football, but you had to learn something from somebody. For 30 years, I learned conservative values from one guy. Why don't you think about this? And it's real important to me because I'd get on a treadmill or I would jog and I would listen to this guy of what he would say about our country and the love for our country, the freedom of our country, the American dream. And every day I would grasp a little bit more of what he said. That guy was Rush Limbaugh. Let me tell you, even in our public schools and even in our private schools, we don't get enough conservative values taught. Only way you get it is from people like Rush Limbaugh. And I want to say this. I saw a picture of him today, and he's struggling. He's struggling. He has cancer. We all know that. And I heard him say today, he says, when I got cancer about a year ago, I said a prayer, and I just begged God to let me live through this next election. And, folks, he's made it. He's made it. And so I want to thank Rush Limbaugh for what he's done for me and millions of people in our lifetime. Y'all give him a hand. You know, I was inspired by the example of Ronald Reagan, who toppled communism with the simple power of his words and the strength of his convictions. And I came to understand that America should not be led by a permanent ruling class, but citizen servants who serve a few terms in Washington, D.C. and go home and let somebody else take over. So to every young person out there today who aspires for public service or loves this country and wants to help, whether it's their community, their neighborhood, their state, or the United States of America, and who is every day thinks sometimes, you know, I got more common sense than every one of those goons in Washington, D.C. Do something to make something happen. Really, I want you to think about that. Do something and step up. Stick your neck out. Run for office. Put your name on a ballot and make a difference. Be a leader. Folks, we need you. We need people to do this. If Tommy Tuberville can stand up here tonight, you can stand up here too. Every one of you. I want to also thank, and right now he's in a battle like he's never been in before. I want to thank President Donald Trump. He is, without a doubt, in my lifetime, the guy that's done more for the United States of America than any president I've ever been around. President Trump was an early supporter of our campaign, and I've had a chance to become pretty decent friends with him over the last 7 or 8 months. He actually called me today at 2 o'clock driving over here. He was coughing. He couldn't hardly talk. I said, Mr. President, you all right? His coach, it's been a long 3 weeks. And he said, but it's been worth it, every bit of it. All the late night phone calls he's made, we've been able to talk about a lot of things, but let me tell you something. The guy doesn't sleep. One night, as I told a lot of you, he called me and I said, Mr. President, it was 1:43 a.m. Central Time. I said, Mr. President, you got clocks in the White House? He said, Coach, sleep is overrated. Yes, sir. But our nation is stronger and more secure because what he's done from the Oval Office. Our volunteers, the door knockers, phone callers, and sign teams here tonight, there you go. I heard that. Let me tell you, you can't do it by yourself. You've got to have 1,000 people that work, and most of them don't make a dime. And I want to thank you for what you've done, because you put a lot of hard work and effort of beating the swamp, and you've done that. There's a saying among swamp dwellers and political insiders that says money is the lifeblood of being in politics. But considering our campaign was spent 9-1 in the last 3 months, and we win 20%, I'd say that the sweat equity of all of our volunteers has paid off. Money ain't all of it. I want to tell you this, though. The next few years is going to be pivotal in the history of our country, the United States of America. Folks, we're in trouble. We're in huge trouble. We need to wake up and smell the roses of what's going on. We've got a lot of elections tonight, and I hope a lot of them go the way that the good Lord, number one, wants to, and the people of this country that really believe in this country want it to go. We can turn far left and embrace the doctrine of socialism in the next few years, and we can go by a lot of different directions, or we can point toward the American dream, which is freedom, liberty, and opportunity for all. Which direction are we going to go? Everybody's going to have to play a role in that. I know which path I want to go. I'm going to fight like heck against Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, AOC, all the fringe liberals in Washington, D.C. as we march toward the shining city on the hill. That's what Ronald Reagan called it. It's important for me to close tonight by outlining 3 promises I'm going to make to you. I thought long and hard about this. First and foremost, I'll be guided by our shared values, conservative values, and I will always vote for the majority of people in the state of Alabama and not for a party like Doug Jones did. I'm going to work every day to serve the needs and keep your trust and make you proud that I'm your representative. I work for you, your representative in Washington, D.C. And finally, each time that I step on the Senate floor, and you're going to like some of my speeches, I promise you that. Suzanne, she's going to read them before I give them, I promise you. I will be mindful of the words when I walk on that Senate floor of 2 Corinthians 3:17, which reads, "Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty." So with God's blessing and your support, I'll serve you well as your United States Senator, and together we can ensure our nation remains the greatest nation ever on the face of this earth. So, thanks for your support. My God, this has been a lot of fun. It's been hard, and I want to thank every one of you because you have worked and dug down hard. This is what it's about. This is what this country is about. But I want to thank all of you for what you represent and who you represent, you and your family. And I promise you I'm going to do everything for you and your family, for your kids and grandkids, so they can have the opportunity of the American dream for years to come. So, thank you for your opportunity to represent Sweet Home, Alabama. God bless the state of Alabama, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Former football coach Tommy Tuberville heading to Washington to represent Alabama as a U.S. Senator. Tuberville defeating incumbent Doug Jones tonight, addressing his supporters, now throwing out footballs. Of course, a football coach throwing out footballs.
And we're back, as you know, and are well aware. Tommy Tuberville has defeated Doug Jones horribly, and that's kind of what everybody expected. I mean, Doug Jones just absolutely got his clock cleaned, and, you know, I called that 2 years ago. You did not have to be a genius. I mean, obviously, because I called it. You don't have to be a genius to call these things. You could see the writing on the wall there. There was just no chance that Doug Jones had to overtake Tommy Tuberville on that. And Tuberville's not my first choice. He's not my favorite, but he gave a pretty good speech there, and I do think that he's a good man. I think that from a moral perspective, he's fantastic. I think that he is going to have a very, very steep learning curve when he gets to Washington. He's not demonstrated that he knows a whole lot about the political process, but overall, I do think that he can be a good senator. He at least has the potential to be a good one. Doug Jones was a horrible senator the second he walked in and only got worse the longer he stayed. So a substantial upgrade for the state of Alabama being represented by actual Alabama values. We actually have a young man waiting here in the wings to go on the air, so we're going to go ahead, and if you're ready, we'll bring you on. Let me see if your mic is on. Say something for us.
Hello.
Okay, we can hear you. Great. So what's your name?
My name is Hugo Davins.
Okay. And I understand you're not from around here.
Yeah, I'm from France, from Paris.
Paris?
Paris. Yes.
Okay. I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but Aris. Okay. All right. So, not being from America, what's your take on all of this? The political process, the event we're having here tonight, like, is it sensory overload? Like, how does this differ from politics in your country?
I think it's very different. People have very different views, and the two main parties are very different, and it's just everything is different. It's not the same.
Okay, so how is it different? Do a little contrast for me.
Well,
how do things go in France?
For like elections, we're not gonna have like parties like we are having right now.
Okay.
People are not very don't really talk about politics openly like that.
So the conversations happen, they're just kind of behind closed doors mostly?
Yeah, mostly, yeah.
Okay, so what's your take on how we do it? Having it out in the open, and you can't even like get on Facebook without it being shouted in your face about it being election day.
It's special.
That's a great way to put it.
For some people, they're fine with that. Some other kind of get mad at other people's idea. But I think it's good, I guess.
I mean, personally, I'm, of course, a fan of it because if politics weren't talked about a lot in the open, I wouldn't have a job. So I like that, obviously. It's good for business. What's your impression of America so far, just in general, not necessarily the political process?
I really like it. It's different. Here in Alabama, well, just like everything is so big. The food is different. People have guns.
Yeah,
yes.
that's especially true in Alabama. You go to maybe Chicago, that may not be true, but in Alabama, yes, we do have guns.
Yes.
Lots of guns.
Yeah, that's something we don't have in France.
So, what's the favorite food you've tried since you've been here?
I like bacon. Bacon is good.
Bacon is good. Excellent choice, my friend. So, yeah, as far as have you been very involved in politics? Have you been keeping up a lot with it since you got here, or what's been your take on that?
Not really. I mean, I understand it, but I don't really talk about it because, well, I don't know. People have different views, and yeah.
Okay. I was just curious and just seeing if I didn't know if like maybe because of where you're from, you said it's not really talked about as much in the open.
Yeah, we don't really talk about it, and well, the political people have different subjects. Like here, it's mostly about like abortion or stuff like that.
Right. And there, it's just a different.
Yeah, it's
different
more
policies.
about it's more about like the environment and how people are gonna the taxes and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So different focuses. That makes sense.
Yes.
All right. Well, if you could say anything to our audience, is there anything that you just want to convey a message?
Not really.
That's fine. Well, thank you so much for being here on the program with us. We appreciate your input and your time.
Yes. Bye.
All right, you have a good one, and enjoy your stay in America. All right, so that was really interesting. That's something we don't really have on the program a lot. We tend to focus on local issues, so we rarely have guests even outside the state of Alabama, much less outside of the country. So that was kind of cool. We'll go ahead and look at the latest numbers that have been reported, give you a quick update on that, because another state has been called. I don't know why my mouse is not wanting to cooperate. There we go. All right. So we're going to go ahead and look at the latest numbers from the New York Times. You can see there that the state of Wyoming went for Trump. Are there any others that went? Because I thought that they had just called one. Louisiana has gone for Trump. That, again, was not one that people were expecting to be really in contention, but it's okay. Missouri. That's the one that they just called for Trump. So Missouri has just been called for President Trump. Again, one that he was expected to win. Not really big breaking news or anything. Let's see, what else do we have here? Ohio. Okay, so Ohio, you may recall, Joe Biden was leading pretty strongly in Ohio just a little while ago, even with 60% reporting. And I said that President Trump was going to wind up winning Ohio. Well, now he has taken a very strong lead, 7 points ahead in Ohio. So there's very little chance that he loses Ohio at this point. And this is with 84% reporting. It's not impossible, obviously, for Joe Biden to win, or they would have called it. But I don't see Joe Biden making a comeback from that. As I said last night, the odds of him losing, the odds of Joe Biden actually winning Ohio were virtually non-existent at this point. Pennsylvania, oh my word, Pennsylvania is doing much better. 56% for Donald Trump as opposed to 41% from Joe Biden. So there must be quite a few third-party candidates siphoning off votes for this election, but we are really seeing a big push for President Trump in Pennsylvania. So I do hope that trend continues. Let's look at North Carolina. North Carolina, again, one that Biden was leading earlier, but now President Trump is back in the lead on that one. It's not by much. It's only by 1.3%, but still, President Trump has taken a lead in North Carolina. He was trailing beforehand. That's really not a surprise either. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't called Florida yet, because, yes, that is 94% reporting. Well, I guess I could see that being in margin of error. But President Trump with 51% of the vote, Joe Biden with 47%, that looks like a pretty decisive Trump victory on its way. Not super, soul-crushing victory, but I find it very difficult to believe that with 94% reporting, even a 3% deficit, which is what Joe Biden is running, slightly over 3, but about a 3% deficit, is going to be able for him to overtake. Well, that's actually a 4% deficit right there. So almost 5. Yeah, about 4.5. So very big, very big hurdle for Biden to climb there. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Donald Trump is winning Texas by 41 to 47. Let's look at Arizona, because remember, this was a big thing. People were predicting that Joe Biden would win Arizona, and right now, with 75% of Arizona reporting, Joe Biden is in the lead. So 53% of the vote with Donald Trump trailing 45. That means that almost 2% is going to third party in Arizona. This is not good for Trump. And here's something that I will want to convey to you that should scare the ever-loving mess out of you. And I hate to do that, but I have to report the truth. Oregon, California, and Washington were just called for Biden. I could have told you that. Oh, but 0% is reported. That's odd. I don't know why. That must be a glitch in their system. But right now, Joe Biden is winning Arizona. And right now, if you look at Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is winning Pennsylvania. You may recall that the electoral map of the most likely outcome had Trump winning both Arizona and Pennsylvania. Do you know what happens if Arizona flips blue and the rest of my map is correct? That means that we have a 269 to 269 tie. It is feasibly possible that we could actually have a tie in the Electoral College for who is president, or we could have one of those little bitty districts in Nebraska or Maine deciding who the president is going to be. I really hope it does not come to that, but that is a possibility. Let's see, Michigan is at 54. Okay, so Biden is making up some ground in Michigan with 39% reporting. Biden is doing a little better than his early numbers, but that's still pretty impressive from President Trump to win that much of Michigan. I'm not sure exactly why. Wisconsin, Trump is winning, but very narrowly, and we only have 43% reporting, so I kind of doubt that he's going to be able to pull that one out. Minnesota, Joe Biden is winning handedly. Again, this is what I predicted. I said that Minnesota is not in contention. Iowa, Joe Biden is winning Iowa. I don't foresee that continuing. I just can't get behind the idea, based on the polling that I've seen, that Joe Biden has a conclusive victory in Iowa. I think that Trump winds up pulling that one out. And then Montana, Joe Biden winning that one. Here's the thing. Montana is more of a swing state than people want to say that it is, because ultimately, even though it is a red state, you have some pretty blue candidates that come out of Montana. It's not quite as cut and dry Republican as people want to make it sound like it is. So I could see this coming down to the wire, but I think Trump still wins Montana by at least one, if not two. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I kind of doubt that. I do think it's funny that with 0% reporting, the New York Times has already called California, Oregon, and Washington for Biden. Like, are they correct? Yes, of course they're correct. Of course that is right. But I do find it funny that they just went ahead and called that one for Biden. I do find that pretty hilarious. Oh, we got Mark Bullock up on WSFA. Let's see what... I was kind of hoping that they would play Barry Moore's speech since they cut it off in the middle of it. I'm kind of miffed about that. I'm actually sitting at Barry Moore's campaign party, and I have not seen Barry Moore's speech because WSFA cut me off in the middle of it to cut to Tuberville, which I understand they've got to do. I get it. But it was still super annoying. I wish that they had just run the Tuberville speech in its entirety, run the Barry Moore speech in its entirety, and then real quick played a recording of Tuberville's. It wouldn't have been live, but it would have been only maybe a minute or two after the fact. So we're here at Barry Moore's. Now we can say victory party, since he has won the election and he will be our representative. Of course, this was significantly less contentious than the primary that he was in against Jeff Coleman and against several other very talented candidates like Jessica Taylor. At one point, was it Wildis Mukes? Yeah, Wildis Mukes was in that race at one point, and so there's several others. Guys, I'm not sure exactly how long I'm going to be able to stay here, because it looks like they're starting to get ready for the party to wind up. They're starting to clean up the dining room. We'll just stay here until it looks like everybody's going to clear out, because I want to bring the coverage as long as I can. But, you know, since I am at an on-location place, I can't just run the broadcast as long as I want to. So we will see how that goes. Let's see, do we have any audience comments? Not any new ones as of right now. Let's go to Doug Jones' concession speech. It looks like that's running on WSFA, so let's go ahead and go to that real quick.
Because as we go forward, we're not going to stop. Because one of the things that we all know, when we came up and started coming out, and we came out of last year with One Alabama, we meant it. We are all in this together. We are doing everything to lift all boats, to make sure that every man, woman, and child in Alabama has an equal opportunity, are treated equally with dignity and respect, to make sure they have the opportunities for a job and a better education. Those are the things that we've been talking about. Those are the things that you've been talking about, and those are the things that we're going to continue to build. I am really proud of all that has happened in the last 3 years. At the end of the day, my time in the Senate is going to be over. But our time than what it has been, to make sure that we continue the march of progress. Because at the end of the day, that's where we are. You know, we could talk a lot tonight about all of those things that we've accomplished in the last 3 years. And there's a lot. There's a lot that the people of Alabama don't even know about yet. But they'll learn. Because what we've been able to do is to meet and talk to so many people. And I can't help it if we can't counter every lie. I can't do that. And it's okay. Because at the end, what we're going to do is go forward with progress. And I know this. I know that we're fine and you're going to be fine. Because everyone has contributed to this over the last 3 years. So many people that didn't even vote for Doug Jones tonight has contributed to make this place better, whether it's farmers, teachers, healthcare workers, first responders, mayors, city councilors, county commissioners. Everyone has contributed. And for that, I'm forever, ever grateful. And during some of these meetings that we've gone to and some of our Get Out the Vote rallies, I always quote John Lewis. I quote John as part of a kind of a Get Out the Vote, try to get everybody enthused. But I want to read that again because I think it's important to remember who we are and what this state is about, and that we have more in common than divides us. John always would quote the old African proverb, when you pray, move your feet. And I used to quote that about trying to get people out and work and try to make these changes as a way of a campaign. But what John went on to say, what he really meant was something different. He went on to say, as a nation, if we care for the beloved community, we must move our feet, our hands, our hearts, our resources to build and not tear down, to reconcile and not to divide, to love and not to hate, to heal and not to kill. In the final analysis, we are one people, one family, one house, the American house, the American family. But we've been the Alabama family. We've been the Alabama house. And John's words are as important now and maybe more important than they were when he wrote them a number of years ago. I've got so many people that I could thank. I'm just not going to rattle them all off. I know my mom and my sis are looking on. They're all crying, just like many of you are. But they've been there with us. These guys up here, daughter Courtney, husband Rip, granddaughters Ever and Ollie, and an amazing staff. One of the most amazing Washington, D.C. and Alabama staff ever. And an amazing group of campaign folks that worked and worked and worked. We touched 3 million people. We worked so hard. Joe Trippi, Doug Turner. I got to stop right there. David Yankovic, and I promised David I would say something. So my social media guy right there, it's his damn fault. Alec, we've got so much that we have accomplished. But here's the thing, and I'm just going to end on this tonight, because we love you, we appreciate you, the state of all that you've given to us and back to the state.
Well, Senator Doug Jones wrapping up
Okay,
his
and that
speech
looks
right
like that's
now,
the end of
coming
the
together
Doug
and saying
Jones
that this
speech
is one
coverage.
Alabama, one
So we're going to go ahead and give you some breaking. There we go. Sorry about that. Sorry, WSFA. Believe me, I understand. She's significantly prettier than I am, but you're stuck with me. So let's go ahead and look at the latest, because they did just announce another state for President Trump. You can look right here. They have called Idaho for President Trump. Again, not super breaking news. People kind of knew that Idaho was going to win, but they're calling it with, 92. That's less than 1% voting. What is going on with, yes, Idaho's going to wind up going for Trump, but it's bizarre that they're just calling states, Washington, Oregon, and California, and Idaho, when so little of the vote has actually been counted. That is odd. I don't know why they're doing that, but, they don't ask me about such things. So let's see if there are any developments elsewhere on the map. Well, that could be interesting. Oh, it looks like Barry Moore is being interviewed. Let's switch back to WSFA.
You know what, we felt like we were in pretty good shape, but I tell everybody we always want to play like we're a touchdown behind. We want to finish well. So, I felt like we'd probably get 10, 11 points maybe just based on what we've been hearing in some polling numbers. But, yeah, I was well pleased with the numbers. I think we had a good, nice turnout tonight.
And what do you think the difference was in the race?
I think a lot of it, for us, Trump being at the top of the ticket in Alabama drew a lot of voters that we haven't seen vote. They didn't vote since 2016, and so that was, I think, the additional percentage that we saw tonight.
All righty. You'll be sworn in sometime in early January. So what would be your first order of business once you get to Washington?
Well, obviously, I think you got to establish relationships. You got to get on committees. You got to get to know people you need to work with to represent the district. And then, I think restoring law and order for our nation and getting the economy back open. I think at some point we have to figure out how to put people back to work.
All right. One final question. You are a former state lawmaker. This is a little bit different animal. A different stage. Are you a little bit nervous?
Really, for me to be where I'm at, I know that the Lord kind of directed my steps, and He brought me. I served in the Alabama legislature. I always stood for what I believed in. I never wavered, and so going forward in D.C., if I can work with humility and do justly, I think we'll be fine.
All right, Mr. Moore. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
All righty, there you go, Valerie. Barry Moore is the winner in the 2nd Congressional District. He goes to Washington, and will be.
All right, and there you have it.
Valerie.
Thanks a lot, Brian, and a very different tone from Moore's opponent.
We have a very, very low-tech stream going on here. I apologize for that. First time I've ever done this, so shooting on location, not always super easy or convenient. So we're here at the Barry Moore election. I guess I can say celebration party now since he actually did win the election, but we are here at Sweet Creek Farms, which Reed Ingram was nice enough to come and help out with all of that. And so hopefully, I was kind of hoping that we'd see Barry stutter in here at some point. He's been in here a couple times, and I never was able to catch him. I'm hoping he'll slip in here, and we'll be able to steal an interview away from him, or Representative Ingram, or Senator Ingram. Yeah, Senator Ingram. Hopefully, we can see him pass by here and get an interview with them as well. But anyway, it looks like the races are starting to wind down, at least locally. The national election, the Electoral College, is still very much hotly contested. Maybe what we need to do is, and I can hopefully make this happen, let's go ahead and look at some of the Senate votes, if I can do that. All right, so let's see how the Senate races are going. As I said, I do not predict that there will be any real contention for the majority itself, but these numbers do matter, especially when you consider that we have people like Lisa Murkowski and Suzanne Collins who could potentially... Oh yeah, the reason you're hearing that in the background is they were calling the race for Tuberville, even though they had actually done that quite a while ago. I mean, he'd already given his victory speech and everything. So let's see if we can go ahead and pull that up. There we go. All right. So right now, the way that the Senate races are looking at this point, the ones that have already been decided, we have the Associated Press results with the Democrats holding 42 seats, the Republicans holding 43 seats. And let's see any of the races. John Cornyn has beaten Mary Hager. New Mexico, not entirely surprising. New Mexico had a very high blue turnout this evening. Although that was not a real close race, I am somewhat surprised to see that it was not at least a little bit closer. Arizona. See, now this is interesting because, as I said, you're probably going to get some revenge vote for Martha McSally. And It looks like we actually have Senator Ingram here. Let me see if I can snag an interview away with him. Senator Ingram, you want to do an interview real quick? All right, excellent. I'll go ahead and bring you on. You'll be over there behind the mic. Yeah. Sorry, I just don't have another mic back here. But hey, so I got to say, first of all, somebody was nice enough to, during one of the victory speeches, steal away some food for me so that I could eat. And your organization here, that's some top-notch food, especially those chocolate chip cookies.
Thank you so much. I've got a good staff.
Yeah. So what have you been doing since the whole, I mean, we haven't been in session for a while now. So what have you been doing kind of? Is it just stuff like this in the political realm?
Yeah, you know, I've got a dealership and I've got this and I farm. So we've been doing a lot of farming, but staying close to my district and the needs of, you know, the people out there and COVID and stuff like that. So we've been, you know, visiting with elected officials like one-on-one and the county commission and Montgomery County and Elmore County, and just making sure that we have everything that they need and tools in their toolbox with the state in my district to make sure that everything's taken care of.
What are some of the unique challenges to that you may have, you know, for example, may not have been able to do because of the pandemic that you would normally do about this time of year as a state senator?
Yeah, we like to meet with all our fire departments. We like to meet with our schools, and it's been hard to be able to do that with their boards and everything. So we've been doing more on one-on-one and calling and doing more virtual than anything. Just making sure that they have the mask and everything that they needed, especially starting out. Now that's not going to have any problems. And then, you know, with the CARES Act, making sure my county's a municipality. I chair county and municipal for the state. And so notifying my cities and that have the needs to make sure they've got everything that they need to take care of everything.
Yeah, I'd really like to get your opinion on how the governor and her staff has been handling the pandemic, because a criticism that I've lobbed, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but it's kind of bothered me, frankly, that they haven't gotten the legislature more involved in some of that decision-making process. What's your take on that? Do you think it's been appropriate?
I agree. You know, I think the governor has made some really hard decisions, and we may not all agree with them, but
Sure.
She's the lady that knows all of the ingredients of what's going on and what the COVID cases and with Dr. Harris. And, you know, and I think that, you know, the mask mandate may be a little harsh, but I think we have to take those bold moves, you know. And I think that getting back to your question on the legislature
Sure.
being more involved, we do conference calls about every 2 weeks, or if something comes up, like the prisons or something, to brief us, the governor to brief us on. And I think we will see a special either in December or January, January, to be able to make some decisions on some stuff that's coming up that's pretty time sensitive. And I think the governor has done a good job, and the leadership in the House and the Senate on conference calls to be able to keep us engaged. And of course, we're not able to vote or anything, but right now, I don't know that we could have a quorum, you know, in the House or the Senate. I think a lot of Democrats are scared to come back. I think that there's a lot of the older members that are Republicans that are you know, scared. I've had COVID.
I didn't know that.
And I was really sick. Didn't have to go to the hospital, but got over it. But I have a new respect on it. And I think
thank God you pulled through that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Been out with 2 negative tests about 3 weeks now. And so
excellent.
And have no you know, repercussions and no paralysis or anything. But anyway, so I think that we need to open back up by a long shot.
Yeah.
But I think that we need to do it in a careful way. But I think we need to move the state forward and get these businesses back to work.
You know, I want to touch on something you just said, because I think it's very important that you can look at it from the perspective of, we do need to open back up, but we also need to be responsible, because I think, unfortunately, especially the way that social media is now and everything, you really only hear the loudest voices, and the loudest voices are saying we should close everything down, we shouldn't even think about reopening until the virus is completely gone, and then you're hearing people on the other side saying, we just need to open everything back up and not worry about it, no precautions. And I think that, you know, that's a real mistake. And I think most people aren't in either of those camps.
I think that if we hadn't learned now, since this pandemic started, on how to keep from getting it, and knowing if we do get it, how to take care of it. The doctors we're having a lot less, people dying from it because
Right.
we know how to treat it. I think it's just like the flu. We're going to have to live with it forever, or for a long time. But I think that if we don't get our schools back open like we've done, I mean, most of them are open, and if we don't open our businesses, and I just think that the people need to be back engaged because of mental health, and we got
Absolutely.
kids that are young girls that are staying at home and doing virtual, that are getting pregnant, and having other issues at home, and I think we've got to get back to some sense of the old normal, and if we don't, we're going to lose. That's more important than the money. But we do need to keep people at work in a safe way. And I think we've learned how to do that since this pandemic started.
I agree, and I have been critical of Governor Ivey on a couple of those decisions, especially because, I mean, I don't know how well you know me, but I tend to be very libertarian in a lot of my thinkings, especially on the economy. But to the state's credit, Wallet Hub did a survey of basically the economic repercussions of each state. And I think Alabama was, I know for a fact we were in the top 10. I want to say we were 6th out of the ones that had the least loss of jobs.
Yeah.
And I got to say, we got to be doing something right. What are the policies you think that we're doing that have kept us from getting hit as hard as we could have been?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. The
Oh,
question.
sorry. Well, what are the policies that you think have kept us from getting harder than we could have been?
I think she opened back up a lot quicker than a lot of people expected. Of course, and I think I understand your question. I can't hardly hear with this going on, but
Yeah, I apologize for that. I've got headphones on, and so I can't really
no
hear
worries,
that.
No worries.
But
So, I think we have the heart to get back, and the people in Alabama want to work, and I think that our generation here in Alabama has been taught that, and I think that we are, just like my business. I have 60 plus employees here,
right.
and we're up. We never closed down. We're up about 30% for the year compared to last year. And I think that a lot of businesses, if they engage and keep their workforce there, the business will come. You build and it will come. And I think that that's the mentality of most of the business in the state, especially your big boxes. And what's really helped us is the internet tax, as you well know.
Right.
That's helped us during COVID. But we've got, your Walmarts, all your grocery stores, your Targets and all that has done good, and especially the Home Depots and the Lowe's.
Yeah.
And so that's kept our revenue good, but our small businesses have done really good compared to other states. And I think it's just the willingness and the heart to drive. We've been taught by generations before us that work is what we're supposed to do.
I certainly think that is a considerable factor. One thing that I am a little surprised about, though, is I'm not surprised that what you're saying about your dealership is true, but I mean, Sweet Creek is so dependent on tourism, and Alabama is a bigger tourism state than people realize. How do you think that affected, especially with the height of this thing being right in the middle of the tourist season?
Yeah, and I think that it hurt us on the tourism, but we had to adjust to attract more of the local people. Like we got more into the meats and the hamburger meats and stuff that people couldn't get in the grocery store because we looked at it as it was a disadvantage as a restaurant, but the restaurant, like the people who supply the restaurants, like the merchants and the Cisco's and like that, they were looking how to get rid of this stuff because they couldn't sell to restaurants.
Right.
So we took some of their goods and put it in our retail in our grocery end, and we're able to help them move some of that market, and it also helped us in our volume. Our profits were smaller because we were selling for cheaper.
Right.
And we couldn't sell, when we first hit, we couldn't sell ice cream. So we had to look at and concentrate on the local market, and because we didn't have, maybe when this thing hit, we were dependent on about, like last year, maybe in the summertime, we would have 75% as travel. And now this year, we probably had 13 to 14%, less than 15% of travel.
Well, I really commend you on making those adjustments. And I have to say, that's one of the reasons I'm a free market capitalist, because when you give people the liberty to make adjustments like that, even with something like this that is completely unprecedented, the market will find a way.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
I think that's true in a lot of businesses in Alabama, not just me. But I've
Sure.
been really blessed by my staff. We have over 60 employees, and every one of them are either college or high school, except for maybe 5, our chefs.
Yeah, and that makes sense because that also gives you the advantage of those are people that are less vulnerable to the virus as well.
That's right.
All right, so anything else you'd like to tell our listeners before we wrap it up here?
No, everything's great. If anybody needs to contact me, feel free. They can send me an email or they're welcome to call me on my cell number, which is 399-6819. I give it out on all the radio shows, but I'm here to serve. Anything we can do. So any needs I need to know about.
Well, thank you so much, Senator. I appreciate you being generous with your time, and I appreciate you hosting this event at Sweet Creek Farms right here in Montgomery.
Thank you so much.
All right, I appreciate it. Hopefully we can get Barry Moore at some point. I hope that we can do that. All right, thank you. Oh, hey, Barry, we got you. Excellent. We're doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good, buddy.
The man of the hour, Barry Moore.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Doing better now.
So, you just found out, 45 minutes ago that you are the representative for District 2 of Alabama?
Yeah, I think I guess they called it probably about 40 minutes ago. We don't know the number exactly, but we've done well in some of the counties, so we're well pleased with the numbers tonight so far. And it's a solid win for our team, solid win.
Well, congratulations. I think that
you.
Alabama is going to be far better represented in the 2nd District than it has been in a while. I don't know how you want to react to that, but I'm just telling you my opinion on that.
Well, I was thinking to myself, no pressure, right? But we're going to do the best we can do, for sure. And so we look forward to the opportunity, and we'll go do the best we can.
Well, Barry, I am always skeptical when somebody goes to Washington, even somebody that I know has a strong moral center like you, somebody that believes in family values and goes into it a conservative. Almost nobody walks out of Washington more conservative than they went in. What would you say to the voters that are concerned about that?
Well, I think you just have to look at a track record. I mean, granted, there are people that promise things all the time, and especially people running for office. And sometimes, to their credit, they think they can make a difference, and they think they can hold their values. But, to me, it's 2020. This is election year 2020. It's hindsight. It's clear as a bell. Look at what I did in the Alabama legislature. Unwavering conservative. I supported President Trump when nobody thought he had a chance. Fighting for the American people and giving them their voice back is my sole goal for doing this. And so I had a friend of mine the other day. We're going to start using this as our slogan. We want to make the government so small that it's not worth corrupting. And so, that's a process that's going to take some time. It didn't get like it is right now overnight. It's going to take some people to go stand on principle. But I think we've proven we're going to do that. I don't see us wavering on that.
Yeah, by the way, I love that slogan. That's been my philosophy for a long time.
Sure.
I've always said, well, if our budget was basically nothing, there wouldn't be all this infighting over who gets the money.
That's exactly right. And of course, the corruption too, because power leads to corruption, and absolute power, absolute corruption. So the more money they take from the taxpayer, the more agencies they create, the more control they have, the more corruption you tend to breed.
So, Barry, with the House, what would be the first thing that you would want to do when you get there?
Well, I think for us, and obviously we've got to see who the speaker's going to be. There's going to be a lot of steps,
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see Pelosi gone, obviously. We won't know probably till the next day or two what the seats are going to look like. But I think for us, the first thing that we've got to do is get the economy open back up. I think nationally, it's time we open this thing, get the people their jobs back, get the economy back hitting on all cylinders. And from there, I think it's restoring law and order. I think people want to be safe in their homes. They want to be safe in their cities, and that's something that's going to be our responsibility to secure the safety of the American people.
Well, I totally agree with both of those positions, but I have to ask because I think that this is a question of practicality. As a member of the House of Representatives, if a governor wants to shut down their state, we believe in the 10th Amendment and that they have the right to do that. So how does the House influence something like that if the governor wants to keep the state shut down?
Well, we have a say on how we're going to refund it. If we're going to use stimulus money, we have a way to how we tie the strings to that. And so my saying is, hey, let's don't pay people to sit at the house. Let's don't give them bonuses on top of unemployment. But let's go ahead and let them work tax-free, get all that money, but go back to work to get that money. So we don't necessarily control the states, but we control the funding of the states. And that process allows us to encourage free markets and opening back up a business.
And that totally makes sense. You don't want to be the state's enabler to allow them to make bad decisions and then bail them out of their own bad decisions.
And then we put governors in bad spots too. If we say, oh, we're going to pay your employees or people who are sitting at home, we don't want to pay those people the relief money and put it on top of unemployment dollars because there's no motivation to put them back to work. Then that hurts our businesses, that hurts our economy, and people are tired of sitting at home for the most part. They're ready to go back to work.
Yeah, I think that, frankly, when this whole thing started, I was like, the way we're handling this is so anti-American. Like, Americans, we want to pick up our rifles and head towards the beaches of Normandy. That's
Sure.
how we handle crisis.
That's right.
And,
We don't cower in fear, and
Right.
this has been kind of counterproductive to America's just our genetic makeup to me.
Mhm. I think that's why, out of all the countries that attempted shutdowns, we kind of took it the worst and didn't do real well with it. But Barry, on the second thing that you talked about, law and order, that's again, law and order is typically something that is done not even at the state level, but at the local level. So what can you as a House member do to try to help reestablish law and order? I mean, aside from the president just calling in the National Guard, what are some steps that you can take?
Well, I think some of the things we've got to let these governors and mayors know that if you don't enforce the laws, don't call us when rioters tear up your cities. I mean, they want a bailout right after the windows are broken and the buildings are set fire, and they've got law enforcement on site, and they won't allow them to arrest lawbreakers. And so at some point, you've got to hold those local governing authorities accountable for the reaction or failure to react when somebody breaks the law.
So just like it is in every election, there's a winner and a loser, and there's some people that are disappointed that their candidate lost. What would you say to the people that supported your opponent who may feel that you're not going to represent them and represent their values?
Well, I think that if anybody knows me, they know I'm a man of faith, number one, and I was called to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. So anybody in the 2nd Congressional District, our door is open. And so we're that kind of person, that kind of people, that team that represents the people. No, regardless of party, regardless of color of skin, whatever the case may be, we're here to serve the 2nd Congressional District.
Well, that's great to hear, and I got to say, that's a great place to end it. Anybody that can quote not only a Bible verse, but the one that happens to be contained in the Auburn Creed is all right in my book.
Amen,
So,
brother.
Thank you so much, Barry. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
God bless you guys. Thank y'all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a good night. And that is a good place for us to end with the man of the hour, Barry Moore. We've been here at his election, I can say celebration party now because, he's won the election. So that's going to be it for our broadcast. Guys, I genuinely wish that we could go a little bit further, but they're starting to cut the lights out on me, so I'm going to have to wrap this thing up here pretty soon. Before we do, I'm going to give you a quick update on the Electoral College, and then we will call it a night. So let's go ahead and bring that up. There we go. All right, so you can see the totals right now, 209 to 118, and it doesn't look like there have been any more states called in either candidate's favor, but it's going to be a long night. We're not going to know this for a while. I may even pick up the broadcast a little bit after I go home, but they're like I said, they're shutting the lights out on me here, and so we don't have much time. Donald Trump is behind in the Electoral College. That's true, but that's because they called so many states early for Biden. That's really not something to be alarmed about. Oh, it looks like they have called Utah for Trump. Again, not surprising. The fact that he got their 6 electoral votes is really something that kind of everyone expected. But yeah, guys, that is going to be it for us this evening. Thank you so much for being with us. This is one of the longest broadcasts we've ever done. It just is so great that we had so many people tune in. Thank you so much for being here. We will be back with coverage again on Thursday at our regular time, 7 o'clock. Thank you for being with us. Until next time, stay the course, friends.
Tactics is a production of News Radio 1440 and Cumulus Media Montgomery. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Cumulus Media or our business partners. Graphics by Jessica Dawson. Video production by Jackson Dean. Broadcast studio provided by Faulkner University. Location studio provided by the Dalraida Church of Christ. Copyright 2020.